We're starting off with danger. We're going to end with danger. A very dangerous day ahead with more severe storms taking aim at the south throughout this Saturday with all hazards on the table. Damaging winds, perhaps 75 miles or stronger an hour, not to mention large hail, possibly long-tracked strong tornadoes. The time is now to be weather aware and weather prepared.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's going to be a dangerous day travel-wise across parts of the south with some of the storms ongoing. But then in the north, we also have some icy conditions there in New England. It's cold and it's raining, and that means freezing rain.
Yeah, big problems for millions of people still traveling this weekend after Christmas and weekend before New Year's. Hey, welcome into this stormy Saturday edition of Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodloe alongside storm expert Dr. Postel. And America's weekend depends on the weather. A lot of people traveling. We have a lot of hazards out there, whether you're traveling or not.
Yeah, we do, and especially across parts of the south. A significant tornado outbreak is expected today, with those dangerous storms likely continuing throughout the day and even into tonight and tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we're concerned about that. Had severe weather and tornadoes just the day before yesterday. Yep. Even yesterday, we're thinking we could have more today, and that threat number has actually increased since yesterday.
It has, and the threat for dangerous weather is indeed picking up steam across the southern tier. We've got our eyes on places like Texarkana and Shreveport, Louisiana, where hazards like damaging straight-line winds, large hail, and the possibility of tornadoes, they're all on the table today. Paul, you're starting to look at now across the south. The overall outlook issued by SPC is a rather dire forecast for significant severe weather, likely on not just ongoing, but expected all day tonight.
Right, we already have some watches being issued out there. We already have some severe thunderstorm warnings out there. And you look at the clock, you're thinking, okay, it's 9 in the east and 8 in the central time zone, and we're dealing with severe thunderstorm warnings. You might have been awakened by that this morning, but a large area here is zoned for likely and very likely strong and severe thunderstorms and severe weather, including the risk for tornadoes. That's a big concern across this area. In fact, we have torcons up of, I think, 7s now across parts of the area in the purple. And my maps are not advancing here on my clicker. So there we go, 7s on a torcon scale. And this is significant because the scale goes from 1 to 10. We're talking, we are way up here on the scale, so it means, yeah, we had tornadoes the other day with torcons of 3, 4, and 5, so you got 7. It is almost a sure bet. So cities like Jackson and Alexandria got 7s there. Tuscaloosa, a 5. Even though you're waking up fairly quiet, but you got some cloud cover in Tuscaloosa, things will change dramatically throughout the day. And it's not just during the warmest part of the day. We have storms out there right now that are severe. So do expect more watches to be issued and strong tornadoes. Not just EF1s, EF2s, perhaps EF2 or stronger. Could be long tracked as well. So you definitely have to be weather aware. Make sure you have alerts on your phone if you're traveling, not used to where certain counties are if you're traveling for the holiday. And also, if you don't have the tornadoes, they'll be isolated for sure, but everyone dealing with the risk of damaging winds, and some of those 75-mile-per-hour winds or greater across this area throughout the rest of today. Watch is up in the yellow. Severe thunderstorm watch including you in Fort Worth and Dallas into the Texarkana area going until noon, and then in the red. This is a tornado watch already issued going for the next 7+ hours here across Texas, Louisiana, into Mississippi. And this is a big concern because this goes till 3, and we could see other watches issued. And right now, Houston, you're not in that watch, but you're close enough. On the radar right now, look at all the yellow polygons here. These are severe thunderstorm warnings already being issued for these storms. And one of these storms is actually showing some rotation as well. The concern is, you might think, oh, it's just a severe thunderstorm warning, but severe thunderstorms can quickly produce tornadoes. Here in Rapides Parish here in Louisiana, this actual cell is rotating. There is still strong rotation aloft, so you can see that couplet here, the red and the green. So definitely a possible tornado could form at any moment. That's what I'm saying, especially today. This should be a rule of thumb across the board, but especially today with the situations going on, you need to treat these severe thunderstorm warnings as possibly producing tornadoes pretty quickly. Also seeing these storms rolling on through Shreveport. And by the way, you can see the slew of roadways and interstates that this severe weather will be kind of moving across throughout the rest of the day, even across into Arkansas. We're still watching numerous counties and parishes being warned for severe thunderstorm warnings again, and the ingredients are possibly for more tornadoes to develop at any point. Is this unusual? No. In fact, it's quite common to see severe weather in this part of the world. And unfortunately, Greg, is coming on through the holiday season when people are trying to travel and letting the guard down.
Yeah, it's another reminder that December can really be a time of year where severe weather is common, especially across parts of the South. And, you know, this holiday season may indeed be wrapping up, but severe weather is really just getting started. We're watching back-to-back days, at least, of powerful thunderstorms moving through the southern tier. A couple live cameras out there. Monroe, Louisiana looks pretty foggy. I think that's what that is, and certainly in Vicksburg, Mississippi. But look, 66 degrees in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and fog. You know what that tells you? That it's a very humid air mass in place, and that is fuel for thunderstorms that are going to be working their way across the deep south throughout the day and overnight tonight, including places like Vicksburg and many other areas here in the south. This is the outlook issued by the Storm Prediction Center. This is a moderate risk in their terminology, which is rather significant. It means it's going to be a long day with a lot of potential here for severe weather, including tornadoes, and some of those could be very strong. We have all of the ingredients in place. We've got the surface fronts, we've got the low pressure. I'll get into some of the other ones right now, but this is sort of the distribution of the rain and thunderstorms relative to where these frontal zones are. There's a big cluster of storms here. I'll get to that in a second, but there's another growing area in here across parts of Louisiana and Mississippi that is potentially more concerning. And here's why. Paul alluded to it a little bit. This particular cell in Rapides Parish, Louisiana, has a very well-defined hook echo, meaning there is a strong circulation, at least aloft, in this particular thunderstorm. Well, does it have a tornado? That doesn't necessarily guarantee you one, but when you look inside of this particular storm, there is here a sort of a tight couplet of reds and greens right next to one another, suggesting that rotation is pretty strong. It's not clear if there is a tornado in progress. Oh, there you go. There's a tornado warning that is now just issued for, let me see if I can, give me a second here. Let me see if I can back this out a little bit and get that tornado warning. I don't see it, but look, if you live in Alexandria, Louisiana, or anywhere in between there and LeCompte, be careful. This is a dangerous storm moving northeast, and it is likely containing a tornado. This is exactly the kind of severe weather we're going to see, not just later on today, but even now in the next few hours. And as I mentioned, there are two distinct areas to watch. One here in North Texas, which is near this frontal zone. This is a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until noon local time. But it is this area where that ongoing tornado warning is much more susceptible for tornadic behavior with those thunderstorms as we go through the early and middle stages of the afternoon. And I will guarantee you, this is not the only tornado watch we're going to see today. We are going to see plenty more across the deep south because we have those ingredients that are set up. There's that moist flow out of the Gulf of Mexico. This is almost like a summertime air mass coming in. Dew points are near 70 degrees. You saw that fog in Vicksburg, Mississippi. That is a sign that that moist air is on the way. And here comes that cold pocket aloft from the west with very strong winds rotating around it. So think about it. We got this big cold pocket aloft with strong wind aloft moving on top of a summertime air mass. And if you look at the combination of the two, well, we've got very strong wind shear because the wind aloft is coming in like that. The wind at the surface is coming out like that. That is a substantial amount of change with the wind from the surface to the higher altitudes, giving us that possibility for supercells, indeed likelihood of supercells, and by extension, that tornado threat right in that zone, which is why the torcons are so high. We're timing it out, showing you that it is going to be a very active late morning and early afternoon. All these storms are going to be racing eastbound, and any one of them, even long after dark, could be supportive of tornadic activity. So we got to watch it through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Paul, it's going to go all through the nighttime hours and extend into tomorrow as well.
Yeah, and so our programming here at the Weather Channel will keep you alert right now. We're dealing with that tornado warning, our first one of the day here. We talked about it earlier, severe thunderstorm. Now a tornado warning on this cell, which is approaching Alexandria, Louisiana. We got Rapides Parish. So zoom on in here. We can kind of show you. We've definitely been dealing with. Okay, we have another watch. This warning it popped up southwest of here. We'll get that to a moment. But we definitely have rotation aloft, and now possibly producing a tornado on the ground. So Rapides Parish here in Louisiana under a tornado warning for 8:30 local time here. So another 22 minutes and change. This could be extended as well, but it's moving close to the Alexandria area. And we talk about the beautiful tool of Doppler radar. It can detect things that shouldn't be in the air, like perhaps tree debris or home debris, as well as wind direction. It's blowing things around, and that's what we're seeing with this couplet here. So it's basically upon Woodworth as we speak here, and there's quite a bit of rain in there as well. So now's the time to get to your shelter. If you don't have a basement or storm shelter, most homes might or might not have that in this part of the world. You want to get to the interior room of your house. And if you know what side of the house the sun comes up on, that's the east side, head to that side as well, because this system is coming in from the west and southwest as well. So you want to have as much space between you and impact zone as you can here. So we're definitely going to watch that as it moves across the area. Now, again, Jillian, if you can move south and west of here, I just saw another tornado warning pop up here, south and west of here. And zoom out, and then there we go. Keep going southwest. There we go. Just crossing the Sabine River here, we have Beauregard Parish now also under a tornado warning. It's almost, you can draw a line of where some of these spins are coming in terms of what's going on aloft, but in terms of what's going on the surface, a potential tornado here in Beauregard Parish as well. This warning goes till 8:45 local time. Let's throw the velocity on here. Yes, also lots of lightning, probably seeing the lightning intensify in some areas. This perhaps is your wake-up call. Right here, once again, we have the green and red couplet here, which is spinning. Possible tornado here on the ground, approaching, what is that, highway, it's too small for me to see in this location, highway 27, highway 27. So again, it's moving northeast. How fast, Jillian? 20 miles per hour. So again, these are still rolling pretty much right upon highway 27 as we speak here. We put the kind of heading towards Seal as we speak in the next 3 minutes. So basically upon you right now, crossing over Highway 27, and it continues to go through Beauregard Parish and perhaps heading on towards Tulla at just at the top of the hour. So definitely some strong rotation, potential tornado on the ground here in Beauregard Parish as well as Rapides Parish. So this is the beginning of a very active day that we're tracking here. We have torcons up across this area of the 7. Let's just kind of pop back up, and we can see how we almost have a line of these storms coming on through here, showing rotation, possibly producing tornadoes. And you got to check the clock. It is just after 8 o'clock. It's 10 minutes after the hour 8 here in the Central Time Zone. This could be the beginning of a very long and active day of severe weather. Yes, we're definitely tracking the possible tornadoes, but everybody's at risk for some hail and damaging wind. Even with these storms that do not go tornadic, they're still going to be on the strong and severe side with damaging winds. A lot of folks still have their Christmas decorations up, and they could be perhaps blown in the wind as well. Again, the first warning we're still watching is the Rapides Parish tornado warning. It's basically moving into Alexandria as we speak here, the cell that's producing this possible tornado. So we already have the rain coming through, 167 coming right from the south here, 165 as well. That's, again, we talk about Doppler radar. These are the scans. So this is kind of like the newspaper. It's already been printed, and now we see it. So there's a good chance it's already moving into and over Cloverdale right now, and probably moments away from Annandale. So that's how you should think of it. Oh, don't think you have 3 or 4 minutes or 10 minutes to prepare. No. This is what the radar has already seen. What's actually live happening could be upon Cloverdale right now. So even in Alexandria, go now to your shelter. It is raining. This could be very difficult to see or spot. It's better to ride this out and be safe with you and your family than worrying about trying to get your latest post on social media. You can also see all the lightning here as well. So this is also a sign these storms are starting to kind of strengthen. In fact, the cell north of there is being warned for a severe thunderstorm warning. We're seeing a lot more of these cells start to get more and more stronger and more cloud to ground strikes of lightning as well. So we're seeing the beginning of a very active day. If you're concerned about what's going on later today, stay here at the Weather Channel. We'll keep you updated. This entire area in Alexandria and points south and west towards Rapides Parish and Beauregard Parish, we have a 7 on a torcon. that is a high likelihood of seeing possible tornadoes, strong tornadoes, long track tornadoes. So be weather aware. Even if you're up and traveling across the I-20 corridor, these storms could definitely be impacting you later in the day, and also storms could also be popping up as we head throughout this morning. Again, I-49 goes right across Alexandria, and we're dealing with a potential tornado moving that direction as well. Shreveport, thunderstorm warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings for you. But even though your area might have a severe thunderstorm warning, with this type of dynamics going on in the atmosphere, they can quickly produce tornadoes. You might not have that much advanced warning. It could be that severe warning. Putting us in forecast, our radar, we're going to see more showers and thunderstorms envelop this area of western and northwestern Louisiana as we head on through and into this afternoon. Tracking severe weather right now, including 2 tornado warnings in Louisiana. But overall, we could see a lot more severe weather, and it's starting early. It's going to last all day long and into the overnight period. Let's zoom in towards Louisiana. We're dealing with thunderstorms going strong and severe even into Arkansas. But you see the 2 red areas. Those are imminent concern because those are tornado warnings here. First one into Rapides Parish, and this rotating part is already over Woodworth, basically coming over the interstate right now, and perhaps on the southern side of Alexandria as we speak, going until 8:30. So another just under 10 minutes on this warning, moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. We have the green and red couplet close together, indicating that rotation going on, coming right over Woodworth right now. And timing this out, it's continuing to come across 167 and I-49 here. So again, this is where it was the last scan. So at this point, it's probably already moving on to the north and east, so right over the interstate at this time. So if you know anyone traveling that way, you might want to perhaps tell them, just delay it. It's a good 20, 30 minutes and let this cell pass on by. At the very least, we have gusty, damaging winds. It's coming into Alexandria as we head on towards the bottom of the hour as well. You want to give all these times some lead time. So don't wait until 8:36 in Alexandria. You want to go to your safe place right now because there'll be rain, lightning, and wind long before that tornadic part of the thunderstorm come that way as well. And then south and west of there, also in Beauregard Parish, dealing with a tornado warning. You can start seeing a little hook on the reflectivity, but that is also coming towards 171 right now. And we still have that typical red and green couplet close together. Again, this is where it was a little while ago, last scan. So now it's probably already moving north and east of there at 20 miles per hour. So it's already crossing over Highway 27 there, continues to move. And you can see ahead of the tornadic part, we have a lot of rain and plenty of lightning. So timing us out, heading on towards Tulla at 9 o'clock. So again, 9 o'clock is when it should be there, so you should be in your safe place as you head on towards perhaps 15 till the top of the hour. But this is just several areas we're watching that are popping up now with strong and severe thunderstorms. We expect, unfortunately, a lot more warnings as we head throughout this Saturday. Greg?
Yeah, it's inevitable, Paul. You're right about that. You know, and then as the severe weather threat ramps up today, just remember, a tornado can strike while you're out on the road. Meteorologist Alex Wilson has some tips to keep you safe.
You're out on the highway on a collision course with a massive tornado. This is scary. It's bearing down on you. What should you do? This is not a good position to be in, and every situation will be different. But there are a few options that can help save your life. If you know you can safely drive away from the tornado or get to a nearby underground shelter or sturdy building, do that. Do not try and outrun a tornado. Tornadoes can move at over 60 miles an hour, and their path can be unpredictable with strong winds far from the funnel. This is especially true for semi-trucks. The large surface area of the trailer makes it easier for strong winds to loft the vehicle into the air. If the tornado is about to hit and there's a ditch on the side of the road and deep enough to protect you from flying debris, pull completely off the road, move away from your vehicle, lie down flat on the ground, and cover your head. If you decide to stay in your car, keep your seatbelt on, keep the engine running so airbags can deploy, and cover your head. Duck below the windows to protect yourself from glass. Now, admittedly, both of those options are scary, so you might be tempted to park underneath an overpass, but this is not a good idea. Winds accelerate under the overpass, bringing dangerous flying debris. And if you climb higher up the sides of the overpass, you will be exposed to higher winds and more flying debris. They act like missiles. This is what injures and kills people the most in tornadoes. A single piece of wood flying around in a tornado can have the same energy as detonating a gram of TNT. And there are thousands of pieces of debris whirling around. So before you hit the road, plan your day around the timing of the storms. Give yourself a buffer to be in or nearby safe shelter because you want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
All right, let's help you get outside for your great outdoors forecast presented by Jeep today. Let's head to Naples, Florida, a place where you can escape winter's chill for the warmth on a beautiful beach. You can go bird watching in the Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary or explore the nearby Everglades National Park. And the weather looks fantastic today, hitting 80 degrees, a few scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow. And then we dry out for very tranquil, nice end of the year weather here in Naples. We are watching severe weather popping up already across parts of the South here, and the threats continue to move throughout the rest of the day and tonight. We have Jackson, Mississippi on the left side of your screen. We have a total count of 7 there. In other areas west of you, we have 7s. We're already dealing with some tornado warnings. And then we have Montgomery, Alabama on the right side of your screen. We too are starting off on the quiet side, but notice both locations. We're in the 60s, and it is what, 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30. In late December. So it's definitely warmer than average. You can feel the energy in the air, and that's going to lead to more strong severe thunderstorms. Dr. Postel, you're tracking severe thunderstorms, including a couple with tornado warnings.
Yeah, in progress already on this late December morning. You're right about that. Those temperatures in those various locations that you showed, that's important information telling us that the atmosphere is very warm and also pretty humid and unstable as well. With all of that in mind, this is the outlook issued by the great forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center. I always say that because I think they're the best. And we've got a very high chance here of seeing severe weather. In fact, we've already seen it, but there's going to be a lot more of it going through today, tonight, and on into tomorrow as well, especially in areas a bit farther to the east. Here's the overall sort of look with the surface map in front of us showing you we've got the usual low pressure system and fronts. They will be moving around a little bit, and that, by the way, area of low pressure is going to get stronger as we go through the day today, meaning all of those ingredients are going to become more intense and more organized as we go through the afternoon. We got a whole bunch of storms here. Some of those could contain heavy rain, gusty winds, a lot of cloud ground lightning very clearly. But the most dangerous of all the storms are here across parts of Louisiana. The thunderstorm outlook here does include a severe thunderstorm watch for areas in North Texas. But in this area, in Louisiana, southeastern Texas, and other areas nearby in Mississippi, the tornado threat is high and is only getting higher. This storm rolling on south of Alexandria, Louisiana, did earlier have a tornado warning in it. It does not anymore. Doesn't mean the tornado threat's completely eliminated, but it has moved on in a way that suggests the tornado threat is not as high as it was in the last hour or so. But it is passing just to the south of Alexandria. This storm is also rather significant. Our radar is sort of blipping on and off because the new data is just coming in. But for Beauregard Parish in Louisiana, we have a tornado warning out for a storm that has recently exhibited the properties of a rapidly rotating environment right in that area where you would expect a tornado. So we have to watch out for this very carefully going throughout the day. And timing it out, look, I'm honestly not the biggest fan of getting all the details in a future radar because there's a lot of uncertainty here that this doesn't show you. But the bigger picture is clear that there are going to be a lot of rain and thunderstorms and severe weather all throughout the South today and tonight. Now, these lines here are where the tornado threat, according to SPC, is the highest. So it is highest in here. And then as all of this moves on eastbound later on this evening and tonight, we are going to continue that tornado risk across parts of Alabama all the way into the Gulf Coast. So it doesn't stop, Paul, with the loss of the daytime heating and the onset of nighttime. It continues on and moves east as we go through the night.
Yes, and moving into Alabama eventually later on today is live look at Birmingham right now. I had the Birmingham Bowl last night to watch that. Navy came back to beat and I said crush OU. All right, but still, it's a quiet day, clouds around there, maybe a little breezy. I think your best chance of damaging storms and winds and hail and tornadoes will come later on this evening. So you got outdoor plans. You want to take down the Christmas and holiday decorations, do that now before the weather's upon you. Basically, as you move on towards Birmingham, 3s on the Torcons, but just west of town, we got 5s in the Torcon. That's significant. The only thing is, it's coming later in the day, so we lose some of the dynamics, so our risk will lower. It's not going to zero, but it's going to be lower later on this evening as the line approaches. But remember, these numbers can actually go up as well, depending on what happens as this line eventually pushes into Mississippi and Alabama. The timing on this is maybe some scattered showers early in the evening hours, but a better chance of that severe weather once the sun has gone down. That's what I'm saying. You have hours now to prepare and get ready, get things done before you really have to hunker down. And if you have an option, if you have a lower level of your house, maybe plan for you and the kids to sleep down there tonight, because this model is saying right about midnight or after that, we're going to see this line blast on across Birmingham, even Montgomery as well. Things will quiet down, though, as we head on towards sunrise on your Sunday. We're still tracking severe weather here across parts of Louisiana, where we also have some severe thunderstorm warnings, even some tornado warnings, and also we're still watching storms approach and roll through the Fort Worth, Dallas area. But into Alexandria, this cell is no longer being warned for a tornado. Dr. Postel, we have a severe thunderstorm warning, but we're still seeing some rotation.
Yeah, and it's continuing to move off toward the northeast. And the worst of the storm, the hail part of it, the strongest winds likely south of Alexandria. A lot of cloud-to-ground lightning, you saw that. But looking inside of it, you don't see the same kind of circulation that we did maybe a half an hour ago. There's not a lot of greens and reds right next to each other in that part of the storm that suggests strong mesocyclonic behavior. So in other words, bottom line is this storm is not rotating as quickly as it once was. That's good news, but it is still producing the potential, Paul, for damaging straight line winds and, of course, very heavy rain.
Yeah, heavy rain, lots of lightning there as well. And there's a cell to the south and west of there into Beauregard Parish. Good news is that rotation has weakened a little bit, and they do expect this warning to be allowed to drop off in the next 10 minutes. But still, it's a concern. This is so early in the morning, and we're dealing with our first 2 tornado warnings. That's why we have in the red, that's a tornado watch going until 3 o'clock this afternoon. And we will see more and probably see some even extended. And by the way, Dallas, heads up, severe thunderstorm watch for you. But severe thunderstorms can quickly produce tornadoes, so be aware. Let's head back to the west right now, where round after round of storms, they've been pumping rain and dumping significant snow across the region. You can see Portland on the left side of your screen. We've got some rain there right now. That's live. And then earlier, we got the flakes coming down here in Eden, Utah. And yeah, almost a week after Christmas, we definitely had a white Christmas. We're seeing definitely a white New Year's on store for us, and maybe even a break in this activity as we head into New Year's Eve and the first couple of days of the new year. So still to come, several more feet of snow across the west. And this is on top of the several different storms we had through here. So it's actually causing concerns because it's like kind of baking a cake, a multi-layer cake. As long as every layer is stable, it's great. But when you have a weaker layer, a heavier layer up top, your cake starts to slide. Hence the avalanche warnings we have up here, parts of the Wasatch as well as the Rockies here, avalanche watch as well. We've already had some slides, and this type of pattern with different water content of the snow makes it very, very unstable. So a lot more people heading to the backcountry, maybe got some backcountry gear. Hopefully you are trained, check with the avalanche warning centers in your state, your local area, and make sure you never go out there alone. All right, the rain to come. Yeah, we already picked up many areas, 5 to 6 inches. We could say another perhaps 4 to 5 inches to come across parts of Oregon and California as well, as our atmospheric river is still slamming the west coast. We do see eventually a break coming this way. We'll push that more farther north across the border into British Columbia. But it's also, we've had just a slew of days of super strong winds and gusting out there, hence the wind advisories. And yes, that wind does move into the interior as well, but winds currently gusting 30 plus miles per hour here. Huge waves offshore, and now they're lashing onshore. Some of the wave damage brought down the end of the pier there in Santa Cruz a couple of days ago, but still 20 plus foot waves offshore. And they do eventually come onshore. So never turn your back if you're going to take a walk on the beach out here, as we have more rain coming down and plenty of snow in the west. If you're traveling, expect in the mountains winter driving conditions and plenty of rain in the lower elevations. Greg?
Well, as we head into the new year, we're going to deal with some travel issues, unfortunately, again. And we're going to start our forecast here looking at tomorrow. And overall, I think the forecast suggests travel is going to be kind of messy along the eastern seaboard, like the I-95 corridor, even all the way to the Gulf Coast and up into New England. Showers and thunderstorms, some severe weather is possible, and of course rain all the way up into New England. How about that? Rain tomorrow, all the way up to the U.S.-Canadian border and then some, suggesting that a fairly significant, sorry, I had to look over some of the data here, a fairly significant system is crawling up the eastern part of the country, bringing warm air with it. But then let's skip ahead to tomorrow night and track a new system beginning right out here over the high plains of Colorado and Wyoming. That system is going to be moving through on New Year's Eve across parts of the Ohio Valley. Mostly rain. You can see Indianapolis on your New Year's Eve morning. Also Chicago, Cleveland, rain. There is no snow with this system, at least not a lot of it, maybe on its far northern periphery, but that would be about it. This thing is a relatively mild system, the last of the year, as it moves on New Year's Eve into the Northeast, bringing mostly rain. So if you have plans to go to New York City, for example, it is going to be raining on your New Year's Eve, likewise in many other locations in the Northeast. There is some colder air coming in as the system matures over the Northeast on Wednesday, New Year's Day. But it's going to come too late to get snow in New York City and the big cities along the I-95 corridor. But interior New England, heads up, we could see some pretty decent snows going into New Year's night. And that is good news for the ski resorts. If you're looking for some snow in the Adirondacks, Green and White Mountains, I think we're going to get some with that New Year's Day storm just off the Northeast coast, cold enough to bring snow in interior sections. All right, let's have a live look at Shreveport, Louisiana, 61 degrees. That's a mild start for your end of December. That is a sign that pretty unstable air is moving into the southern Gulf regions. And do expect dangerous travel, especially later on today as the severe weather really begins to ramp up across the bayou and other areas in the south. This is actually a very significant threat for us as we go through the afternoon and evening hours. Look at this map, and it shows you the area most likely to see severe weather is in Mississippi, Louisiana, areas nearby in Alabama as well. And overall, travel could be very dangerous here, so please be mindful of the latest updates on that severe weather threat and have a way to get those warnings, because I can guarantee you there are going to be a lot of severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings, especially later on today and even in the overnight hours. Airport delays will be significant. You can see we've got some of these shades of yellow here all across the south and even in the north as well. How about that Boston with expected delays likely today, not for severe weather, but for other reasons. There's some weather moving through there of the colder winter-like variety, but it is here in the south where the most dangerous severe weather threat does exist, and we have torcons of 7. Torcon, remember, is taken strictly from the Storm Prediction Center's tornado probabilities. The higher the number, the more likely we'll see that tornado threat. And also, we're going to go to the nighttime hours. With this whole storm system, it's not going to shut down once the sun sets. It's going to continue to go on. Very strong dynamics are in place. Strong wind shear and plenty of buoyancy. Humid air coming in off the Gulf of Mexico throughout the entire event. Going to sport a lot of rain. Flooding also is a significant component. And of course, the threat for damaging straight line winds and tornadoes anywhere here along this zone, especially this evening across parts of Mississippi. You'll be able to see that line of thunderstorms begin to develop and move eastbound from Mississippi, Paul, into Alabama during the overnight hours. A dangerous night is ahead for us. Again, make sure you know how to get those warnings and react if necessary.
All right, thanks, Greg. All right, time now for a little weather and play. We still got some bowl games going on. In NFL, we got games today and tomorrow. Got some weather impacts as well into Yankee Stadium. Yes, they're playing football in Yankee Stadium for the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Cornhuskers versus the BC Eagles. Some rain showers coming in. Meanwhile, great weather here in Miami. Mid to upper 70s for the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Iowa State's in town to take on the U in Orlando. All right, move on towards the pro game. Patriots hosting the Chargers. Got to win today. Keep your playoff hopes alive. We got rain showers to start the day. And a little foggy. It could be difficult to see. Some balls being thrown and kicked as well. Improving weather here in Cincy as you host the Broncos later on this afternoon. Then we turn the calendar on to your Sunday games. We got weather. Not snow in Buffalo, but rain. Maybe some lake-enhanced rain. Temperatures upper 50s as you host the Jets. Bills are definitely in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Jaguars are hosting the Titans. Scattered showers and thunderstorms, but you know, not a bad forecast, but just bad seasons by both teams so far this year. And then we also have some scattered showers and thunderstorms. Bucks are still trying to stay in the playoff talk against the Panthers, and scattered showers and thunderstorms in Tampa tomorrow afternoon. Greg?
Well, for the next couple days, Paul, we are dealing with some pretty mild temperatures across much of the U.S., and this is going to be our mild finish to 2024 as expected. The data has been telling us that now for a long time, and December is going to end up warmer than average for much of the country, certainly in the west and even in the southeast. It's going to see those numbers come up in the next few days. And we have plenty of record highs that we expect going through Tuesday. So 2024, the end of December looks pretty mild. Look at today's highs in there, 57 in Atlanta. That's just the beginning of it. But look, 67 in Raleigh, 53 in D.C., even Chicago at 51 degrees. That's well above average for this time of year. And that's just today. Tomorrow gets even milder for many of us in the southeast, probably near 70 in Atlanta, likewise in Charleston. Find your spot on the map. But that is the time about which on Tuesday we start to see things change going into 2025. Colder air comes in, and initially it's relegated to the northern tier and probably not all that much below average. But going beyond that and really into week 2, sort of like the second week of January, there's a risk for very cold air to move not just into the northern tier, but in the mid-Atlantic and South, Paul. Could be very chilly for us in the first part of 2025.
Yeah, we'll see if some storm storms could bring some ice or snow, too. Keep an eye on that. Thanks, Greg. Well, more weekend recharge is on the way, and the countdown is on here in the Weather Channel to get you through your holiday weekend safely as we continue to have severe weather coverage all day long. We have a dangerous day ahead on this Saturday as more severe storms are taking aim at the south today with all hazards on the table. Damaging winds, perhaps 75 miles per hour or greater, large hail, and possibly long-tracked and strong tornadoes. The time is now to be weather aware and prepared.
Plus, travel along the southern and eastern corridors could also be treacherous at times with storms in the south and rain and even some icy conditions across parts of the Northeast in New England.
Well, good Saturday morning and welcome into the stormy edition of Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodloe alongside storm expert Dr. Greg Postel. America's weekend depends on the weather and a lot of people traveling during the holidays, and this weather is not going to cooperate, and not just for a couple hours. This is basically all day and then into tonight.
And maybe even into tomorrow as well. It's going to be a long duration event, no doubt. Dangerous threat of storms, as Paul mentioned, today and tonight and into tomorrow. So please stay alert if you're traveling this weekend, especially across parts of the southeast. Got a couple of live looks here at Texarkana and Shreveport. It's in the 60s on this late December morning, telling us already that the atmosphere is pretty warm and getting more and more unstable. In these places, we could expect the hazards eventually, like damaging straight line winds, large hail, and even tornadoes. Paul, this is an all hazards type of threat today across the deep south.
Right. So, it's important to stay aware. I know a lot of people are not in their normal locations because you're perhaps traveling for holiday, for family and friends, or vacation. If you're in this area, make sure you know how to turn your alerts on your phone. If you can even just Google that and find out how to turn my alerts on so your phone can let you know if you got warnings. Right now, the large swath of the Gulf Coast states in some shade of red, even to purple, meaning likely we're going to have some severe weather. And unfortunately, it's not just, strong winds, some hail here. I'm talking even the risk for tornadoes. Our Torcon scale goes to a 10. We got 5, 6s, 7s here. And these numbers could actually go up depending on how this day unfolds here. And by the way, these numbers were no higher than 5 yesterday for today. So, yeah, this is a changing situation. Unfortunately, we wish they could change lower, but there's a chance they could go higher or remain where they are, which is pretty significant. You have a 7 here in Jackson, Mississippi, and Alexandria, Louisiana. And we're just coming off of a tornado warning here in Alexandria last hour, and even Tuscaloosa at a 5. You got much of today pretty quiet here in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, but you'll see things go sideways later on this evening and tonight. So when you have a 7 on a Torcon, yeah, we expect dangerous severe weather. We could see numerous tornadoes, some of them very strong, perhaps EF2 or even stronger, and they could be on the ground for a while. And we expect more watches to be issued. We already have at least 2 watches out there, 1 severe, 1 tornado. And our wind threat. So this is most likely what everybody will be dealing with across this region. Gusty, damaging winds as these storms coming on through. I don't see much real estate here that will remain untouched from thunderstorms as we head throughout this Saturday into your early Sunday hours. So the watches I'm talking about, here's the yellow. That's the severe thunderstorm watch until noon. Fort Worth, Dallas, you're in this. Bear in mind, it is severe thunderstorms that can quickly produce tornadoes. So don't think, we're good. Right now, you're good at the airports. You had ground stops yesterday because of storms. We don't have any delays right now, but check your carrier. Meanwhile, in the red, that's a tornado watch stretching through East Texas into almost the entire state of Louisiana and then into Mississippi. This goes until 3 o'clock, and you're close enough to it. Across parts of southern parishes, you can still see strong and severe thunderstorms. You don't have to be just in it. You can be close enough to it. Houston, you're close to this area as well. Not to mention, we got airports there that could see some delays. Right now on the radar, watching some strong storms here in the hill country, dropping some hail. Otherwise, scattered showers and thunderstorms. At this point, there are no warnings, but we had at least 3 tornado warnings earlier in the last couple of hours this morning, and the sun is just getting in the sky here, Greg. So we're in the beginning of perhaps a very stormy 24, maybe even 48-hour period.
Yeah, you're right about that, Paul. We're not even close to being done with the warnings. We're going to see a lot more of them, especially later on today. So the holiday season may, be wrapping up, but severe weather is really just getting started now. We're watching back-to-back days, as Paul mentioned, of some powerful thunderstorms that are going to be moving through the southern tier. And these cameras are really important for us right now because, look, Vicksburg, Mississippi, the southern part of the state, 68 degrees right now. 68. Same thing in Jackson, Mississippi. We are near 70 degrees on this early morning-ish of late December, telling you that there's a lot of warmth and humidity coming in to the deep south. That's ingredient number one for severe weather, right? If you look at the severe weather outlook here, as issued by the amazing forecasters, I might add, the Storm Prediction Center, the best in the business. Well, they're telling us that the odds are quite high, actually, for severe weather of all kinds. Damaging straight line winds, large hail, tornadoes, and some of those tornadoes could be long track and significant. Very, very important to keep that in mind. Right now, here's sort of a measure of what's going on right now. I put the surface features on there. I'll update them. They haven't actually moved a whole lot, I don't think, in the last half an hour to an hour. Low pressure, the primary one here in North Texas, that's going to be growing in intensity and getting stronger, which is going to help later on today and tonight organize the ingredients even more effectively to give us a higher threat as we go forward in the next 12 hours for all that severe weather. But there's a couple of parts of the map here that are important. One of them is here, and this is very heavy rain with some severe weather chance, and the other one is here. And they are actually quite different, and each poses a different threat generally. Severe thunderstorm watch out until noon, right in there. And some of this may even be north of that boundary, meaning it's in the cooler, more stable air. But because this is such a dynamic system, we're going to be able to get severe weather even outside of the warmth and humidity that is obvious across areas farther to the south, where, by the way, there is a tornado watch out here that goes until 3. And this is not the last tornado watch we're going to see. We will see a couple of more at least. So this is just the early version of what we're going to, I think, be dealing with throughout the rest of the day. Inside of that tornado watch, we don't have any warnings right now. I'm kind of scanning the skies and looking at the radar and seeing what I could find. Any suspicious little hook echoes? There indeed appears to be one here in northern Louisiana about ready to come into southern Mississippi. Let's see, right about there, just to the southwest of Kentwood. And there is not a robust circulation aloft with it right now, but that doesn't mean one can't pick up or get stronger in the next couple of scans. Because remember, we're in a very volatile atmosphere with a lot of buoyancy and instability, in other words, and very strong wind shear. So these storms are going to be able to rotate very effectively. Here's why all of that's ongoing. We've got a almost winter-like system. I know it's winter, but it's not really that cold, but it's cold enough. This pretty powerful dip in the jet stream with its cold air aloft is coming on in to an atmosphere that I already described as almost summer-like with a moist flow out of the Gulf of Mexico. So the contrast, of those two air masses, something not good is going to come out of it. And that's what happens when you have those sharp gradients of atmospheric properties with cold air and moisture and winter and summer battling it out. We got that. And the key in between is the very strong wind aloft that is right now circulating around the base of that upper trough. That strong wind aloft is setting us up for an environment that has a lot of wind shear in it. Because remember, the wind aloft is coming in like that, like I showed you with that dip in the jet stream. You can still see it. But the surface winds are coming out of an entirely different direction at a much slower speed. So there's a radical change in how the wind is operating as you go up in altitude. Now, it is changing direction, but today, how it's changing direction matters a lot, and that is what's giving us that significant tornado threat today with torcons as high as 7. Remember, the wind can change direction with height, doesn't always give you a tornado threat, but the way it's doing it today is giving us that tornado threat. And you can see we've got those substantially significant torcon values based strictly off the SPC's tornado probabilities. So here's Again, this is an estimate of what the radar is going to look like this evening. There's a lot of uncertainty here, but I think one of the more, reliable parts of this forecast is the development of a line of storms, and embedded within that, a significant tornado threat that moves across the deep South, Paul, not just during the day today or evening, but into tonight and into tomorrow, from Mississippi to Alabama and eventually even to West Georgia tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's our second line of storms this week. The first line actually weaker than today's line, but look at the damage it did here as it powered through Alabama, leaving behind a trail of downed trees. You can see glimpses here from Grand Bay as crews worked hard to clear the power lines and the tree debris as well. No major power outages reported. However, the chance for destructive weather continues as we head on through tonight and then tomorrow as it pushes on into the southeast and the Carolinas. So yeah, this is another multi-day event here. So we showed you that damage. Today's line stronger, more widespread potential for damage. We have a 7 on Torcon here, even 5s in Shreveport. We've already had our first tornado warning for Alexandria early, about an hour ago. We're dealing with that cell that's now just moving to the north and east of the city of Alexandria, but we're still not done. We have not changed our air mass. It's just going to kind of recharge itself as we head deeper in the day, and we don't just need the daytime hours. Put this in forecast mode. We can see we might have a few quiet hours to kind of clean up whatever mess this first batch went through before we see another line blast on in the area as we head on towards the heart of the afternoon. So if you got outdoor plans, you got things to perhaps do around town, get them done early and then ride this out in a safe place, and then things will quiet down as we head on just around dinner time tonight, and a far quieter Sunday for you. The last weekend of December, last weekend of the year should be quieting down the last half. Meanwhile, we'll slide eastward into Jackson, Mississippi. We too had our bout of severe weather yesterday, and now we're dealing with 7s here in the Torcon, and the timing is more storms popping up and kind of filling in the area as we head throughout the morning, and we'll see a brief break as we head on towards the middle of the afternoon, and then the line that's coming through Alexandria comes this way. That line comes from the west, and all day long we're feeling that strong southerly wind. You can feel the winds of change coming through, and they'll blast on through after dark and then keep pushing eastward. And again, things look better as we head on towards your Sunday. Meanwhile, to New Orleans, we've had several waves of strong and severe thunderstorms this afternoon. We have 3 on our Torcon, and we're going to see our bout of rain showers and thunderstorms, possibly some severe, maybe some water spouts here. Even on the north side of the lake, our stronger line comes through as we head on towards 9, 10 o'clock this evening. Well, whether you're at home today or out traveling, have your cell phone handy to make sure that you could get vital information. Here's how to make sure you turn on your phone's emergency alerts before severe weather hits. We're not always by our TVs and radios when severe weather strikes, but chances are we do have our mobile phones with us. The emergency alert features found on most smartphones can be a lifesaver during severe weather. Here's how to make sure yours are enabled. On the iPhone, simply go to Settings, click Notifications, and scroll down to the bottom. Make sure the emergency alerts and public safety alerts are toggled to the green on position. For many Android phones, look in your message settings for the word Alerts, and you can choose which ones you want to enable from there. Some alerts can be in other locations on Android phones, so just search for the words Emergency Alerts. Fortunately, these smartphone alerts will work in any town you are in and will warn you of any possible dangerous weather heading your way.
All right, let's have a live look at Boston. I promise you that's Boston, even though you might not be able to tell from the camera, but 38 degrees, that's liquid variety of precip coming down, a little rain, but you can also see some snow on the ground. So it's kind of raining, messy, cloudy with rain coming down on top of snow. That's not what you really want. But unfortunately, the weather is going to warm up in the Northeast over the coming couple of days. Anyway, look, we got highs today in Buffalo at 54 degrees. How about that for your late December? Way above average, 20 to 25 degrees above average. Same thing in many other locations. We started off this morning with a little bit of freezing rain in the Northeast. In other words, it was actually rain because it was so warm aloft coming down from the clouds, but then freezing on contact with the surface temperatures were at or below 32. So that created some icy conditions with a small amount of ice buildup on some of the roads and walkways and things like that in parts of New England and New York State this morning. But we're going to warm up with our temperatures by later on today. Here's some of the current numbers. As I mentioned, Boston 38, Albany 28 right now. But look, just to the west of Albany, it's 50 already. What the heck? It's 50 in Buffalo. Albany's going to warm up in the next couple of hours. We are going to see that warm air move on in. And these shades of blue are where right now the surface temps are below 32, so any precipitation coming down could freeze on contact in some isolated areas in New England and eastern New York State. But in a matter of a few hours, we're going to be above 32, even at the ground. And that should lead to more wet on the roads than anything else. And that's good news. So winter weather advisory this morning hangs on until those temperatures come up above 32. But we'll see that happen. And then we've got an even warmer system coming in for tomorrow. The one that's producing severe weather over the south today, and we'll do some tomorrow, will have an effect on the weather in the northeast, Paul. Even into southern Quebec, it is going to be raining during the evening hours tomorrow. Temperatures in the 50s.
Up and down roller coaster of temperatures in the Northeast. Thanks, Greg. We're just getting started here on Weekend Recharge for parts of the West. Dry days have been few and far between. Coming up, we'll show you how days of snow and rain are adding up. And after spending time with family and friends, millions of Americans are trying to pack up and head home. We're going to help you plan your trip and avoid delays. It could be impacted by severe weather as well as some rain and snow. Well, Mama said there'll be days like this. Yeah, at the airport, certainly on the holidays. You, your mama's friend, and everybody, cousin, Pookie, Riri, everyone's at the airport. Oh my goodness, they're packed. What we don't need is weather slowing things down. What we have is weather slowing things down. Yeah, people are coming back from Christmas, going to their New Year's Eve celebrations. So, yeah, guess what? You're not alone when you decided to get out there and travel. And unfortunately, we're starting today like we started yesterday with some delays out there. Some different locations, some similar, but we expect more delays in Salt Lake City as snow eventually comes this way. Seattle, we're doing pretty well. We've had our fair share of wind and some rain, but we've handled that. But when you got severe weather in red and even purple on the map, that's not a good combination for more delays because we can see strong and severe thunderstorms. And it's not just at the airports, it's the roadways because Mama and them are also driving by car across the region. And this is the type of thing where you do not want to drive through it. It's, you know, something if you can perhaps delay your travel or make it a little earlier in the day and just be weather aware because we could have tornadoes, some could be wrapped in rain, and this will continue even after the sun goes down. I'm a big proponent of driving during the daylight hours, especially across the plains when you don't know what's on some of those open roads there. The southeast, delays already at DFW. No delays in Atlanta. The weather's chilly, misty, but you can get around without any big concerns, but expect things to change dramatically. DFW, we had big time ground stops yesterday. This morning, well, ground delays by almost an hour. So definitely check with your carriers. And these delays are because of weather. They can change and they will leave you. The plane will leave you. But it said it was 30 minutes and you're still in the parking lot. So definitely check with your carrier because there's limited seats. You don't want to try to struggle to find another flight during the holidays here. JFK, also some delays there with the the rain, and some areas north of there are seeing a little freezing drizzle in there, but we do expect the mild air to kind of win out, so we don't expect a lot of concerns, but a ground delay of over 2 hours in JFK, and some of these are international flights, and they'll definitely have more priorities to land those flights coming in from international destinations as well. And again, if you drive, we are concerned here in the purple, could see some freezing rain until the temperatures warm up later into today. Greg?
Well, later in today, we know the severe weather is going to ramp up, especially in the afternoon and even in the overnight hours. But remember, a tornado can strike also while you're out on the road. Meteorologist Alex Wilson has some tips to keep you safe.
You're out on the highway on a collision course with a massive tornado. This is scary. It's bearing down on you. What should you do? This is not a good position to be in, and every situation will be different. But there are a few options that can help save your life. If you know you can safely drive away from the tornado or get to a nearby underground shelter or sturdy building, do that. Do not try and outrun a tornado. Tornadoes can move at over 60 miles an hour, and their path can be unpredictable with strong winds far from the funnel. This is especially true for semi-trucks. The large surface area of the trailer makes it easier for strong winds to loft the vehicle into the air. If the tornado is about to hit and there's a ditch on the side of the road and deep enough to protect you from flying debris, pull completely off the road, move away from your vehicle, lie down flat on the ground, and cover your head. If you decide to stay in your car, keep your seatbelt on, keep the engine running so airbags can deploy, and cover your head. Duck below the windows to protect yourself from glass. Now, admittedly, both of those options are scary, so you might be tempted to park underneath an overpass, but this is not a good idea. Winds accelerate under the overpass, bringing dangerous flying debris. And if you climb higher up the sides of the overpass, you will be exposed to higher winds and more flying debris. They act like missiles. This is what injures and kills people the most in tornadoes. A single piece of wood flying around in a tornado can have the same energy as detonating a gram of TNT. And there are thousands of pieces of debris whirling around. So before you hit the road, plan your day around the timing of the storms. Give yourself a buffer to be in or nearby safe shelter, because you want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
Well, indeed, that's right. And Weekend Recharge, of course, continues on this final Saturday of 2024. Coming up, we'll talk about who needs to be on high alert for this threat for strong tornadoes, large hail, and damaging straight-line winds. And of course, the new year brings a new storm. We'll break down when and where we're going to see some snow, some rain, and yes, more thunderstorms. Stay tuned.
Well, severe thunderstorms are threatening to move back across the south today. A live look at Jackson, Mississippi on the left. We got a tornado of 7 for the area today. It means we could see a tornado outbreak. Montgomery, Alabama, we've got a torcon of a 3, and that's for later on this evening, as we will expect more thunderstorms to keep forming and then keep rolling across the Gulf Coast states. And Dr. Postel, it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning here, and we've got temperatures already moving into the low to even upper 60s here in Jackson.
That's a really good point, Paul, because if you knew nothing else, but you saw those 2 camera shots with the temperature on it, knowing that it's late December, you'd think something's up. What is it doing near 70 degrees in southern Mississippi already on this late December morning? So, well, there's that air coming in from the Gulf of Mexico that is warming up, humidifying, and providing some of those ingredients for severe weather today, as outlined here by the Storm Prediction Center. You can see we've got an area, boy, the more purple on the map, that's not a good shade here. That tells us that there's a pretty high likelihood of seeing severe weather, including tornadoes during, well, any time of the day and into the overnight hours. So this is going to be a long duration event throughout the afternoon, evening, overnight, and into tomorrow as well. So be very careful about that. We have a lot of those ingredients ingredients in place. I'm not going to line through them right now, but coming up at the top of the hour, I'll have a little bit more of an in-depth look at it. But we have the surface features out there. An area of low pressure over North Texas, you can see that. We've got a frontal zone here, which is helping to collect a lot of thunderstorms in that zone. And these are significant. Heavy rain, a lot of cloud ground lightning, and some potential for some small hail and gusty winds. No doubt about that. But there's another area, too, that I'll show you in a second that is potentially a bit more worthy of our attention, only for the fact that the tornado threat is higher in areas to the southeast. But here's that area right along this frontal zone. Again, a severe thunderstorm watch. What does that mean? Conditions are favorable for the development of severe thunderstorms in and close to the watch area, and that goes until noon local time. But I think there may be more additions to that severe thunderstorm watch and maybe an extension of it as we go through the afternoon hours. But farther to the south, where the air is much warmer and much more unstable, you saw that near 70 degrees already in Jackson, Mississippi. It is very, very obvious to the data that the atmosphere is very ripe, at least now, and will likely even be more so for severe weather, including tornadic thunderstorms. The good news is right now we've got a lot of thunderstorm activity ongoing right now. I could put the lightning on, you'd see a lot of it. But the atmosphere here is not yet supporting a lot of rotation, but it will. And it could happen really with any one of those storms at any moment. We have a severe thunderstorm warning here now for Bossier, Claiborne, and Webster parishes in Louisiana. This is just west of Minden. And there is a suspicious looking shape to that thunderstorm. Looked in it, didn't see a whole lot of rotation, but it is aloft spinning. It is likely a supercell thunderstorm, the kind of which we are going to see a lot of today and tonight. Remember, supercell thunderstorms are a breed of thunderstorms that does indeed likely contain with it the higher risk of hail, big hail, and tornadoes. And we're going to see that continue into the overnight hours tonight, Paul, with likely a line of severe weather all the way to the Gulf Coast, even early tomorrow morning and into tomorrow afternoon, probably in the southeast as well.
Yeah, and that line coming into Birmingham. Here's a live look at Birmingham right now. Fairly quiet, got some clouds over there, but it's 62 degrees. And we had the Birmingham Bowl yesterday. It was actually Georgia Tech versus Vanderbilt here. Pretty good, entertaining game. That's a good little team. And Georgia Tech, you had your chances. But still, the concern is we're going to have storms coming in here later on tonight and after the sun is set. So you don't just need the daytime heating. That's one reason why some of our Torcon numbers are a little bit lower the farther east you go, because we're going to run out of some of the energy, but not all of the energy. We have 5s in a Torcon west of Birmingham, but Tuscaloosa, you're in that. But Birmingham right now, you're in a 3 on our Torcon scale. The timing of this is for maybe some hit and miss showers as we head into the early evening, but a better chance of that line that Dr. Postel was talking about roll this way as we head on towards, say, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock, right on through midnight. So look for a stormy Saturday night across much of northern Alabama, and then all those storms push eastward. You wake up tomorrow with a much quieter weather day ahead for you to round out the last Sunday of the year. Meanwhile, as we head on towards a little farther west on I-20, it's going to be a stormy go. We have 7s and 5s here in the Torcon Shreveport. You got a 7 at Alexandria. We already had our first tornado warning of the day. Expect more throughout the afternoon.
Coming up on Pattern, scientists didn't know about this huge anaconda until this year. The story behind this new sighting, plus more species that were discovered in 2024.
You don't have to worry about where you recharge. The road's doing it for you as you drive.
That is cool. We're charging towards the future as more and more people adopt electric vehicles. One state is working on a new project to take the anxiety out of long-range trips. Lynette Charles joins me for Pattern. We'll see you right after Weekend Recharge.
Well, let's head back to the west right now, where round after round of storms, well, they have been pumping rain and significant snow, even wind across the area. We have a live look at Portland, Oregon. On the left side, we got raindrops on the lens of the camera. And to the right, we got the snowflakes coming down here in Eden, Utah. They've been adding up for sure. And yes, we had a white Christmas. And yes, we're going to have a white New Year's Eve and New Year's Day as well. And maybe the beginning of the year, 2025. you might have a quiet period, maybe some dry weather, including for you in Portland. But we got to get there first. New Year's Eve again is Tuesday. Right now it's Saturday. We can still see a couple of feet here in the Cascades. Snow levels are fairly high, about 4,000 feet here in the Cascades, about 6,000 to 8,000 feet in the Sierras. But plenty of snow in the interior as well. But it's not just snow we're dealing with. We're dealing with a concern of several different storms dropping snow of different water content. So some is that packable snowball snow, some is that snow you can kind of blow, it's powdery. So different layers, lots of instability between those layers. Our avalanche danger is sky high in the backcountry for sure. And here's a little thing you might not know. Even inbounds, in ski areas, ski resorts, they can still have avalanches. What they do is they take that threat and they lower it, but it's never going to be zero because the avalanche zones are the zones we also like to ski and snowboard on. So there's always kind of a rumbling of a low threat there, but it's a rare thing. It's much more dangerous outside of the ski resort areas, which are not controlled. Snow, we also have plenty of rain, low elevations. We've been dealing with a lot of rain and some flash flood concerns for some of the burn areas. That will continue. But we do see a brief break, though, as we head into the middle of this week. We do see the atmospheric river still bringing us a fairly mild flow across the area, but it's also bringing in some strong winds. Have been doing so since this kind of series of storms started slamming the area earlier last week. So we still have winds gusting at times Astoria 30 to 31 miles per hour. Huge waves out here, 20-foot plus waves. So beautiful to look at, but make sure you got a safe distance away from that surf because we can have some waves combine and bring you some much bigger waves. The rain continues, the mild air does as well. So look for more wet weather if you're traveling and some variable snow levels across the passes here, but also plenty of winter driving conditions as you drive farther east into the Rockies. Greg?
Well, the stage is indeed getting set in the Big Apple to ring in the new year. It's only a couple days away. Now, here's a live look this morning in New York City, days before the iconic crystal ball drops on New Year's Eve. But hundreds might have to, well, wait and see how the weather shapes up because it does indeed look like rainy times may be on their way as we usher in 2025. So let's have a look, for example, at today's weather. We got a couple days yet, but it still looks kind of messy in the Northeast and other areas around the country, especially, again, mid-Atlantic and, of course, the southern severe. But tomorrow, all that moves on off toward the Northeast and brings some unsettled weather. I think you'll see delays at the airports up and down the East Coast tomorrow, and some of the weather on the roads not all that great either. But there's more because the system behind it coming in for New Year's Eve, let's say, for example, in New York, well, by Monday, we'll be out here in the southern plains, and it's going to be tracking its way eastbound through the Ohio Valley on your New Year's Eve morning, largely as a rain event. It doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of snow with this thing. Not enough cold air, at least at this stage of the event on New Year's morning, New Year's Eve morning. And then going into New Year's Eve proper, we're going to likely see some rain in New York City and Philly, and eventually in Boston, and many other locations in the Northeast with this system coming in right around New Year's Eve and into New Year's Day. For many of us, it's going to be a rain event. Look at that. As we go into, well, New Year's Day, midday, who would have thought that we'd see rain all the way up into southern Canada with that storm system? But there may be some cold air that comes in on the backside of this to convert some rain over to snow or give us indeed a little bit of snow regardless. And that would be on Wednesday and going into early Thursday. So how much snow are we going to get? It's way too early to call the numbers. But remember, when it's moving through the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, mostly a rain event. Not a lot of snow. But by the time it gets into the Northeast, as I mentioned, especially moving off the coast, colder air comes in behind it. We could get some accumulating snow in the Adirondacks, the green and white mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire, and even in western Maine with moderate accumulations. That's a shovelable kind of snow accumulation for parts of the Northeast at the higher elevations and in the northern parts there, Paul. But overall, until then, it's going to be pretty mild. Not a lot of snow between now and then. But then as we talk about going into 2025, Paul, you and I were mentioning it is going to get very cold, very likely. So we'll have much more on that coming up as we come up in about 5 minutes. Well, we have a live look right now in Shreveport, Louisiana. 63 degrees, wind at only 5 miles per hour. Kind of rainy, murky out there, but that's a sign that the atmosphere is actually warm and humid, certainly relative to late December standards, no doubt about that. Be very careful driving around. A lot of heavy rain is coming our way, and so is severe weather that could impact the travel, no doubt, across parts of the South. Here's the overall outlook for today. And you can see anywhere from Dallas, Texas, all the way through Shreveport, Louisiana. Eastbound from there, much of Mississippi, Alabama, and even later on tonight and tomorrow in Georgia. Heads up, severe weather will likely be moving through and complicate our travel plans. The Torcon, the tornado threat today, is reasonably, if not indeed quite high across parts of Louisiana and Mississippi. You can see torcons of 7. Remember, that's a scale that goes from 1 to 10. The higher the number, the more likely the tornado condition is. And we are basing these strictly off the Storm Prediction Center's probability. So not making this stuff out of thin air. This is right from the experts at SPC. But here we go. When we're talking about the rain overall and the messiness across the South, well, there's a lot of it. And embedded with all the heavy rain is the significant severe weather threat along the leading edge of that batch of rain that is going to be likely developing and moving through the deep South today, tonight, and into tomorrow. The severe weather threat will continue overnight and into your Sunday across very highly populated areas in the deep South. And the travel forecast for Sunday from the Midwest and the plains all the way to the West Coast, generally not too bad. It's in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic, I think, where the travel conditions are going to be most impacted by the very same storm that today is bringing the severe weather. Tomorrow will likely bring at least some of that across parts of Georgia, Tennessee, even Kentucky, into North Carolina and South Carolina during the afternoon tomorrow. These are kind of air traffic controllers' problems, let's put it that way. I wouldn't say nightmares, but when you have such a long line of thunderstorms, it gets real tricky to making sure we avoid those. So expect delays at the airports, not just where it's raining, but up and down the East Coast and even beyond, where we're trying to figure out what the best way is through all this nasty weather will be. We'll get there, but just be prepared for delays. Paul.
Delays for sure. Hey, weather is going to be in play for some bowl games today, even some NFL matchups, and we're talking playoffs. Playoffs? That's right. Playoffs are on the line, spots in that for sure. Meanwhile, we got the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Yeah, they're playing football in Yankee Stadium. BC in the house, and so are the Nebraska Cornhuskers with some rain to start the game. Meanwhile, as they head on towards Orlando, we got the Camping World Stadium, the Pop-Tart Bowl. The U is hosting Iowa State. Maybe some scattered showers, but looks dry now, but still comfortable. Mid-70s. Enjoy that weather. Rain showers start the day here in the game in Foxborough as the Patriots are hosting the Chargers. Chargers got to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And Denver making that journey into Cincinnati. Temperatures awfully mild for Cincinnati in December. This is later on this afternoon, close to 60 degrees, but dry, but definitely cloudy. And not lake effect snow, it's rain here in Buffalo because our temperatures are in the upper 50s as you host the cross-state Jets there. And meanwhile, Jaguars versus Titans, some scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon here in northern Florida. Greg?
That is nuts to see those upper 50s in Buffalo, Paul. You're right about that. And this is a sort of a theme to close out 2024. It is going to be relatively mild. Between now and Tuesday, all those red dots on there are where we expect records to either be challenged or indeed broken. And that's a lot of us across most of the lower 48, right? Today's highs, well, depending on where you are, it's going to be pretty mild. And no matter where you are, it's going to be mild relative to average. I would say above average temperatures are everywhere on that map. Same thing tomorrow, even though objectively, yeah, it's chilly at Burlington, Vermont at 44. But by Burlington standards, this time of year, that's way warmer than average. Things are changing, though, as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday. Colder air, at least initially, moves into the northern tier of the U.S., brings us back to or below average temperature-wise. You can see some of the numbers. But then going into the first week of 2025, some of the models recently have shown us that in the second week of January, it is ridiculously cold, even in the deep south. Something to keep an eye on.
All right, thanks, Greg. Well, more Weekend Recharge is on the way. Count on the Weather Channel to get you through the holiday weekend safely as we continue to track severe weather. We'll have coverage all day and all night long right here on the Weather Channel. Dangerous day ahead. A tornado outbreak is likely today. All hazards are on the table. Damaging winds talking 70 miles per hour or stronger. Large hail, maybe golf ball size or larger, and possible long track and strong tornadoes. The time is now to be weather aware and to get prepared.
It is indeed. You know, we have traveled potentially problematic for us across the southern and eastern quarters of the country. Storms in the south, we know that. We talked about that, the big severe weather threat, and rain. And even earlier this morning, some icy conditions across parts of New York State and New England, at least for a little while longer.
It's amazing that we're not talking a whole lot about the potential for freezing rain because we've got severe weather. We had a couple of tornado warnings this morning, some strong rotation. This could be a very dangerous day. I'm happy it's today versus, say, a couple of days like Christmas Day, that people let the guard down.
Yeah, and you might think because it's December with severe weather, really, it's actually not that uncommon.
Especially in this part of the world.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back to this stormy edition of Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodloe alongside storm expert Dr. Greg Postel. And like you mentioned, the calendar says not only December, but late December. And we got weather we definitely have to track.
Yeah, we do. A dangerous threat of storms with all the hazards that you mentioned. We've got large hail, damaging straight line winds, and the threat of tornadoes, significant ones, potentially long track tornadoes in play today, tonight, and even into tomorrow, right? It's kind of this continuation, a 36-hour long at least event. So be careful if you're traveling, especially across the southeast.
Yeah, already seeing some warnings out there. And one thing you might feel across the southeast is it just feels different. I mean, temperatures in the 60s, and we're just now closing in on 10 a.m. in the central time zone.
Yeah, and the threat for that dangerous weather is actually picking up even as we speak. Paul mentioned we already had a couple of tornado warnings out. Have a live look at these locations in Texarkana, Arkansas, and Shreveport, Louisiana. It's in the 60s already. Kind of murky out there, but you know, this is telling us that the atmosphere is ripening up for severe weather, especially later on today with the humidity and the warmth surging in from the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, we're also dealing with a line of severe storms bringing some hail already here in parts of central Texas. This is pea-size hail this morning coming down on Toe, which is a community just northwest of Austin in the hill country here. And that's ground verification of some pea-size hail. But the radar was saying perhaps up to quarter size or larger hail. So a strong updraft supporting that and even stronger and larger hail later throughout the day. So a large area here zoned in red and even purple. Generally, I think it's roughly 24 million people in the risk of severe weather today, 28 million tomorrow. We'll talk about tomorrow coming up, but right now we have torcons up here, including 7. This scale goes from 1 to 10, so 7 is a significant number, and that number could go higher as we head on towards today. Even Birmingham, you're not in the 7, but you're close to the 5. Tuscaloosa's in a 5. Technically, Birmingham's in a 3, but that could change. Also, it's probably because of the timing of this line pushing eastward throughout the day. 7 in Jackson, Mississippi, 7 in Alexandria, Virginia, and we have Tuscaloosa, Alabama in a 5 on our torcon. So when you get numbers this high, we expect tornadoes. We already have 1 tornado watch. We could see more, and we could see very strong winds and strong long track, long-lived tornadoes on the ground as we head on towards this afternoon. And if you don't have the tornadoes, not everyone getting the tornadoes, but most likely everyone dealing with a thunderstorm will deal with damaging winds. They can get perhaps freeway speed and then some. 75 miles per hour. You're in that Category 1 hurricane force winds are possible across the area. Right now on the radar, we are seeing a lot of lightning as these storms are getting stronger. Good news is Dallas and Fort Worth, we're starting to see the back edge move through, so your weather should trend quieter as we head on towards the afternoon. And Houston, well, keep your eyes peeled to storms already trying to pop up to the west of you. And we also have a few warnings up here, severe thunderstorm warnings. But remember, even severe thunderstorm warnings can quickly produce tornadoes. So don't just say, oh, it's just a severe warning, it's not a tornado warning. That could change. Right now in Texas, Cass, Marion, and Morris counties under a severe thunderstorm warning going until 10:15. So another about 13 minutes on that warning here. But damaging winds definitely going to be a concern. And that's just north of Interstate 20. So big concerns for travelers here, I-20, 49, I-10 here. And we're also watching some storms rolling into Arkansas as well, going severe. By the way, we have 2 watches out. In the yellow, a severe thunderstorm watch, including you in Fort Worth and Dallas. And then in the red, that's a tornado watch. Severe goes to noon. The tornado watch goes until 3 p.m. and extends eastward even into Jackson, Mississippi. Baton Rouge, you're in this as well. And we could see these watches and new watches get extended. And then tomorrow, here we go, enveloping about 28 million Americans here for severe weather as we round out Sunday. And again, some of this is starting first thing in the morning right on through tomorrow night. Greg?
Well, holiday season may be wrapping up, but severe weather is actually just getting started. We are watching back-to-back days of powerful thunderstorms likely to move through the southern tier of the United States, from Texas all the way to Georgia and beyond into even the Carolinas. A couple of live looks right out there right now: Monroe, Louisiana, Vicksburg, Mississippi, Jackson. So look, the numbers we're showing already mid to upper 60s this still morning in late December, telling you that something's up. The atmosphere has got some tricks up its sleeve when it's already almost 70 across parts of the South. Yes, it can happen, of course, this time of year. But you know when it does, well, maybe you better pay attention a bit more to the weather. And we have a significant threat of severe weather today, including tornadoes, damaging straight line winds, hail. And when I say tornadoes, I also talk about the higher end type of tornadoes, the long track variety, maybe significant ones, with all of those parameters that we typically think of. They are in place right here, as outlined by the Storm Prediction Center. So find your spot on the map. Do note that it is going to be a busy afternoon, and I might add, nighttime tonight as well. This is not going to stop in the evening in the sunset time frame, in the overnight and into tomorrow as well, especially as we move a bit farther to the east. Here's what's ongoing right now. We have the usual suspects, right? We've got an area of low pressure, by the way, which is strengthening. This is going to be the key to help organize the ingredients even more as you go through the afternoon and overnight hours. That area of low pressure is going to take a path about like that and get stronger as it does move along that way, and will help foster the development of significant severe going into the nighttime. But for now, look, we've got a bunch of storms here right along that stationary boundary, which is going to start to move a little bit as that low pressure intensifies. We have to watch those storms. Very heavy rain, gusty winds, maybe more so a little bit of a hail threat, and a lot of cloud to ground lightning. But out in here, there's almost like a second threat here. It's not independent of that, but it is in a distinct geographical region. Breaking it down, the part near the front and north of it, this is where thunderstorms could be severe in and close to the watch area today. This watch goes until noon. There'll be more severe thunderstorm watches later on. But this area, farther to the south, in the open warm sector where the air mass is much more summer-like, well, this is where the tornado threat continues. I promise you that's not the last tornado watch of the day. We will see additional tornado watches issued. For now, there's just a lot of rain and thunderstorms. We had warnings earlier, tornado warnings out, but right now we don't have any. But any one of these storms is in an environment that is growing increasingly susceptible to see that severe weather develop. Here's why. Moist air continues to flow out of the Gulf of Mexico. The dew points right along the Gulf Coast are around 70 or just above that. Meanwhile, a colder, winter-ish like system is coming in from the west. You can imagine the conflict arising from the confluence of these air streams is problematic. And it is in particular because of the strong wind shear that we've got. Look, there's a powerful dip in the jet stream with the wind aloft coming in like that. You can see the cloud pattern flying by at higher altitudes from southwest to northeast. That's a sign that the winds aloft are really strong. And when you put that on top of what the surface winds are doing, you got a whole lot of variation from the wind at the ground to the wind aloft. I'm not going to get into the details right now, but I can tell you the wind at the surface is coming out of the Gulf of Mexico about like that. The wind aloft is coming out at a much faster velocity, different direction, and connecting the dots between the two carves out a hodograph, which is a profile of wind shear, which tells us that it's optimal, or near so, to support tornadic development. So yes, you can have the wind changing direction with altitude. That doesn't always guarantee you severe weather or a particular type, but the way it's doing it today is giving us that tornado threat. So let's time it out. You can see we are going to be tracking a whole lot of rain, A whole lot of thunderstorms. This is imperfect. I can tell you right now, these future radars are very, very susceptible to positioning and intensity of thunderstorms. But because this is such an obvious sort of larger scale event, do expect a line of thunderstorms to develop, especially this afternoon and evening, and some development out here in the free warm sector. Any one of them is going to be in an environment that can support tornadoes and, of course, all the other hazards with severe weather, including damaging straight-line winds, moving through the deep south, Paul, overnight, and then into the southeast tomorrow. It's a multi-day threat we have to watch very carefully.
Yeah, over the weekend, roughly 50+ million Americans at risk. Let's time this out here. Starting with Shreveport, already had some severe thunderstorm warnings earlier. Alexandria had a tornado warning earlier. We're in that 7 and 5 in terms of Torcon. So there's a high likelihood we'll have more warnings, perhaps even more tornadoes. Right now on the radar, things are quieting down, but you just feel the energy in the atmosphere. It's breezy from the south, so a lot more fuel being recharged throughout the atmosphere. Showers and thunderstorms continue on through lunchtime. We can see some pockets of relatively quieter weather in Alexandria, but then boom, we could have lines blasting on through this area of kind of northwest and northwest central Louisiana as we head right on through this evening, and then things quieted down. Sunday looks a lot quieter this far west across the Gulf Coast. Enjoy Sunday. Tonight, though, and this afternoon is something we have to be weather aware. We'll slide eastward on 20 into Jackson. And if you're traveling here, it's going to be rough later on today. Hopefully you're already at your destination, or perhaps you can delay this till tomorrow where the weather will cooperate. But that southerly flow, scattered showers in the forecast for much of the day. And then this evening, we'll see that line roll through here after say 6 o'clock, and it will continue right on through the midnight hour, and then the quieting down as we head on towards Sunday. And we'll slide southward to New Orleans. We've had our fair share of multiple lines this week here of severe thunderstorms coming on through and strong storms. We'll see more. And by the way, with an open body of water like Lake Pontchartrain, we could see water spouts as well. So it's going to be a very changeable day here in terms of strong and severe thunderstorms. The most intense lines of storms come through after dinner time and right on through the midnight hour. So not the ideal day to be out and about in Bourbon Street with lots of lightning out here as well. There's no safe place outside when you have lightning. Birmingham, yeah, you were in the 3 of the Torcon, but Tuscaloosa is in the 5 because Tuscaloosa, you'll see the lines of storms come your way a lot earlier in the evening, but we're talking some of the nighttime hours, overnight hours. That's when those lines will finally reach this area of Alabama and give us the risk of severe weather, including tornadoes, right in through the very early morning hours of your Sunday. So whether you are at home today or you've been traveling around, not familiar where you're staying this week, having your cell phone handy could help save your life. Here's how to make sure you turn on your phone's emergency alerts before the severe weather hits. We're not always by our TVs and radios when severe weather strikes, but chances are we do have our mobile phones with us. The emergency alert features found on most smartphones can be a lifesaver during severe weather. Here's how to make sure yours are enabled. On the iPhone, simply go to Settings, click Notifications, and scroll down to the bottom. Make sure the emergency alerts and public safety alerts are toggled to the green on position. For many Android phones, look in your message settings for the word alerts, and you can choose which ones you want to enable from there. Some alerts can be in other locations on Android phones, so just search for the words emergency alerts. Fortunately, these smartphone alerts will work in any town you are in and will warn you of any possible dangerous weather heading your way.
All right, let's have a live look at Albany, New York. We are under a winter weather advisory until 1 p.m. Eastern. We can see some freezing rain today. Now that is rain, remember, falling from the clouds and falling from the sky and then freezing on contact. And we can see some ice build up, maybe up to 1/10 of an inch. This is a problem for us because, right, you look outside the window and it's raining, but it's actually not. It's called freezing rain because the rain falls and then freezes on contact. We have some of that in the Northeast today. Here's some overall travel conditions that we expect. 51 in Chicago. Look at all this mild air out here. 54 at least for a high in Buffalo. You might think that air is much too warm to support any kind of frozen precip, and you would be right. And that warmer air is coming in eventually to the Northeast, and that will shut down our wintry precip type later on today. But not yet. Another hour or two in that northeastern part of the country. But you can see there may be some airport delays Who knows why? I mean, weather somewhere else can impact your flight delays 1,000+ miles away. So exactly why? Just know that the weather over the lower 48 is kind of busy today, so that complicates our flight plans for sure, no doubt about that. But the good news here for driving anyway is that we are now starting to warm up. Maybe not yet above 32 in Albany, but the areas that are, right now below freezing are fewer and fewer. And with each passing hour, that is going to be the case everywhere here, Paul. Soon enough, in the matter of a couple of hours, we'll be above freezing and the threat for frozen precipitation will be over.
All right, thanks, Greg. Well, we were just getting started here on Weekend Recharge. For parts of the West, dry days have been far and few between. Coming up, we'll show you how days of snow and rain and strong winds are adding up. And after spending time with family and friends, millions of Americans are trying to pack up and head home, or perhaps head to their New Year's Eve destination. We want to help you plan your return trip and avoid some possible delays by the rain and the snow and even the severe weather. Airports around the country are packed as people are traveling back home after the holidays. Many others perhaps traveling to their destinations to ring in 2025. But stay weather aware. You're in for a potentially bumpy ride or maybe even some delays, cancellations coast to coast. Storms are bringing rounds of rain and severe storms, gusty winds, low visibility, and even snow, especially across the mountains. Not to mention, there's tons of people out there, record season for traveling. Heads up for travelers, both in the roadways and the airports. We've had now an extension of the area under a tornado watch. This area through 3 o'clock p.m. Now this new area, including I-45, I-35, also now under a tornado watch until 5 o'clock local time. So this is going to be an all-day event here. Hopefully you got you traveling in yesterday. You're flying yesterday or tomorrow versus today in this region. It is going to be difficult. Right here, the airport we're concerned about, Atlanta, this could be later today, but if you're flying into Atlanta from western destinations, this is going to be a bumpy ride trying to get over and around some of these storms, which will be above areas where the planes fly. So you can't fly through. You don't want to fly through them. You could, not for very long, but you don't want to. Meanwhile, the Northeast, some de-icing, some clouds, some low visibility, slowing things down there in the west. So more wind and rain into Seattle and Portland. But the big concern for travelers is driving through this. You could have flash flooding. You could have straight line damaging winds blowing you around on the road. So definitely it's a big concern for travelers on the roadways as well. Right now, only delays we're watching in the area in terms of weather delays is going to be at DFW. We had big time ground stops yesterday at DFW and Love Field. Right now, it's under an hour delay. It's because of weather and the storms popping up just to the east of you. Check with your carrier, make sure you're there on time, because with weather delays, they can clear and that plane could leave without you. So don't say, oh, I got extra time. You want to verify that and keep checking back, stay close to the gate. We've had some heavy rain here south of Dallas here causing a flash flood warning. But what good news is we're starting to see the quieter weather start to move on through Fort Worth, and hopefully this next little line is not going to amount to much. But hopefully we're starting to see things quiet down by even mid-afternoon. But east of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex into Louisiana, in Arklatex, Bossier and Caddo parishes under a severe thunderstorm warning, and then in Texas, Harrison, Marion, and Cass counties under severe thunderstorm warnings. Greg?
As the severe weather threat today ramps up, remember, a tornado can strike while you're out on the road. Meteorologist Alex Wilson has some tips to keep you safe.
You're out on the highway on a collision course with a massive tornado. This is scary. It's bearing down on you. What should you do? This is not a good position to be in, and every situation will be different. But there are a few options that can help save your life. If you know you can safely drive away from the tornado or get to a nearby underground shelter or sturdy building, do that. Do not try and outrun a tornado. Tornadoes can move at over 60 miles an hour, and their path can be unpredictable with strong winds far from the funnel. This is especially true for semi-trucks. The large surface area of the trailer makes it easier for strong winds to loft the vehicle into the air. If the tornado is about to hit and there's a ditch on the side of the road and deep enough to protect you from flying debris, pull completely off the road, move away from your vehicle, lie down flat on the ground, and cover your head. If you decide to stay in your car, keep your seatbelt on, keep the engine running so airbags can deploy, and cover your head. Duck below the windows to protect yourself from glass. Now, admittedly, both of those options are scary, so you might be tempted to park underneath an overpass, but this is not a good idea. Winds accelerate under the overpass, bringing dangerous flying debris. And if you climb higher up the sides of the overpass, you will be exposed to higher winds and more flying debris. They act like missiles. This is what injures and kills people the most in tornadoes. A single piece of wood flying around in a tornado can have the same energy as detonating a gram of TNT. And there are thousands of pieces of debris whirling around. So before you hit the road, plan your day around the timing of the storms. Give yourself a buffer to be in or nearby safe shelter because you want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
Well, as the severe weather threat ramps up today, remember to keep an eye on the weather and be prepared to deal with the warnings and the watches that come up because it is going to be a very volatile afternoon and very likely we'll see scenes like this that not only accompany the afternoon severe weather threat, but also into the overnight and tomorrow morning as well.
Well, severe thunderstorms are, threatening to land back across the South this entire weekend. Here's a live look at Jackson, Mississippi on the left, sitting at 68 degrees. Meanwhile, Montgomery, Alabama is sitting at 64 degrees. And Jackson, we have a 7 in our Torcon, which means we will most likely see multiple tornado warnings, probably most likely tornadoes, and some of these could be long-lived. We could have a tornado outbreak underway later today. Dr. Postel, something that's definitely a concern as millions of people are still trying to travel this weekend.
Yeah, you know, those words were explicitly outlined by the Storm Prediction Center with a tornado outbreak. That's not something you hear that often, but it's a reminder that today is one of those days in December, which actually it's not all that uncommon to see severe weather in December in this part of the country. But this is a higher end event that we need to pay special attention to because of the particular threat of tornadoes right in this zone here where we say very likely. That's a pretty significant threat risk and assessment overall with the possibility, as Paul mentioned, of some of the higher end tornadoes that are lasting a long time. Long track tornadoes are called. The basic ingredients are here. We got the frontal zones, which are usual suspects, right? You got a front coming in. Those are usually good places to collect showers and thunderstorms. And we've got a whole bunch of that here, by the way, which is supporting some severe weather. Yes, with hail and some damaging wind, the primary hazard with the strongest of all the storms in that zone. Very heavy rain as well. And with that, there is a severe thunderstorm watch out until noon. I have a feeling there'll be another one issued somewhere in that vicinity or maybe even in areas to the east, along and north of that frontal zone where severe weather is possible in and close to those watch areas. So be mindful of that. Even if you're in Little Rock, you don't have a severe thunderstorm watch now, but you'll probably get one. I mean, right? That's the way it's going to work. But farther to the south of that front is where the atmosphere is more susceptible to the tornadic kind of severe weather, including tornadoes. We got part of this tornado watch, by the way, is extended until, we'll say, 5 o'clock this evening local time out in here in East Texas. So this is kind of a two-part tornado watch till 5 right there until 3 local time there, which goes into southern Mississippi. This is not the last tornado watch we're going to see today. We will see more of them. We actually right now have a severe thunderstorm, a squall line here developing with little buckles inside of it, which are sometimes dangerous because in the sense of producing tornadoes, because the very strong wind shear in place can tighten up some of the circulations already embedded within. And this is heading into northwestern Louisiana, just to the north of Shreveport. And even if you're not in that severe thunderstorm warning, that line of storms pretty nasty. So it could produce gusty winds over 60 miles per hour and maybe some small hail. The other area here in southeast Texas, we are watching very carefully because the atmosphere again here is also supportive of severe weather, including a couple of tornadoes there. Timing it out using a future radar. It's always tough for me to do this, but we have to give you a sense of the timing. These models are just best estimates and guesses, essentially. Good ones, but they're not perfect. But here's the probably key takeaway point. There will likely be, I would say, a line of thunderstorms like that, and embedded within that line later on this afternoon and evening, tornadic threat. And even out ahead of that line, we could see individual storms that carry a tornado threat as well. This is a very dynamic system, Paul, that's going to go into the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning as well.
Yeah, tomorrow, then tomorrow afternoon, it pushes eastward, and we're still not done at all. So here's a live look at Birmingham. If you got things to do, as they say, get her done today, because we have a risk of severe weather moving later on tonight. Again, the 3 and 5 in the Torcon splits right on down Birmingham. So I'd call it a 4 for Birmingham proper, 5 in Tuscaloosa. So this is the latest updated outlook, which is pushing that risk of even the 3s a little farther into Georgia. And by the way, Atlanta, you're in the 2 in the Torcon. So let's not sleep on that. Maybe not widespread tornadoes, but damaging wind, a huge concern. But you can see our numbers start to go higher the farther west you go, because we're earlier in the evening and the storms will be stronger. Sometimes they could kind of peak out, but still pack a punch as they're maybe just taking the edge off. Not winding down, but just taking the edge off versus the heat of the day and the strongest part of all the dynamics going on. Birmingham, not going to see a lot of rain until later on this evening here, so you have time to get things done like taking down the holiday decorations, because we are expecting strong winds. It's 10 o'clock. And the storm's just now approaching Tuscaloosa, eventually blowing through Birmingham by midnight, and also making a run for North Georgia. Atlanta, this will be in the dead of night as we head throughout the area, and then things much quieter for your Sunday. Big concerns here, parts of Louisiana and Texas. Torcon's up to 7, and more storms expected here in northwestern Louisiana. Tracking severe weather, and right now we have a new tornado warning, and this one is closing in on the Houston area. Let's zoom on into southeastern Texas. We have parts of Waller County and Harris County, northwestern Harris County under a tornado warning for this cell, about to move out of Waller County into Harris County. This should trend just north of the Katy area, north of Interstate 10 here, but it's moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. Plenty of rain and lightning in there, type of thing where you want to go to your safe place. It's maybe you can count on one hand the number of basements you have in this part of the world, but you definitely have an interior part of your house, maybe the east or northeast side of your house, but definitely showing strong rotation aloft, which is the first sign of our tool, Doppler radar, that can show you potentially we could have tornadic winds on the ground there. Not to mention probably some hail preceding that possible tornadic part of that thunderstorm. So again, this is moving into northwestern Harris County. You can put this in the Cypress area, Cypress Creek, Cypress Fairbanks, as we head on to about the top of the hour. So you have 20 minutes now to dust off your severe weather plans, wrap up what you're doing, and make sure you can get to your safe place. Again, this is going to stay northwest of downtown Houston, but it's just outside the far Beltway, and eventually crossing Highway 290. So be weather aware. This area, again, is not in the newly extended tornado watch, but you are close enough to it. You don't have to just be in the watch to have warnings, to have tornado warnings, even severe thunderstorm warnings. And by the way, we've already had this morning where severe thunderstorm warned storms then produce tornadoes. So you got to remember, tornadoes are produced from severe thunderstorms. So be weather aware, especially today, we could possibly see a tornado outbreak. All right, well, this system used to be on the West Coast, and right now we have yet another system on the West Coast here, which is still dealing with round after round of rain and wind, and that turns to mountain snow. Live look at Portland. Sun is up now, and the raindrops still coming down. And on the right side of your screen, you got a view from Eden, Utah, where the fresh snowflakes keep coming on down. Yeah, we can see a lot more snow. Great news if you're in the west, in the mountains, enjoying the snow. This is the great pattern, has been a great pattern for you. Now, if you're traveling, we're still going to see some midwinter traveling conditions here. Our past level snows across the immediate west coast up towards Tahoe, they fluctuate. Sometimes even today, about 4,000 feet in Washington and Oregon, a little higher, and then up to at times over 8,000 feet in Tahoe. So some of these snow levels are above past levels. So it's a little easier to drive across the passes morally or closer to freeway speeds than if you had chain controls or four-wheel drive. We've seen numerous accidents the last couple of days, but the moisture pushes eastward, and because it's somewhat warmer, we've had various water content in the snow, which means layers of different snowstorms dropping snow. Our avalanche danger is sky high. We've already had multiple avalanches out there. This is especially true for the backcountry, but also heads up inbound ski avalanches or snow avalanches are quite possible. They reduce the limit, but they never reduce it to zero because the avalanche favored zones are the zones we like to play on, whether it's snowmobiling or skiing or snowboarding. In terms of rain, we've had some flash flood concerns, some burn scar areas, some landslides. We have a couple more inches of rain to come, and this pattern will continue as we head on through this weekend. We do see a little break as we head on towards, say, Monday, maybe even New Year's Eve, Tuesday, but the wind out here has been howling. That continues in the interior, also impacting your travel. Even right now, winds are gusting 20, close to 30 miles an hour, 35 mile per hour gusts in the Seattle area. Has also been doing a number on the ocean. Huge waves here, even doing some damage to the Santa Cruz Pier. And these wave heights get even higher here off the coast of Oregon, 26-foot high waves. Surf is up, Greg, if you're an experienced surfer out there.
Yeah, Paul, you're not going to want to be out there in your dinghy in the West Coast there because of the big waves. But you know what? We have more substantial travel issues to talk about, especially in the East today and tomorrow. Have a look at this outlook for tomorrow that we're seeing all the way from the Gulf Coast to New England. Heads up, we could have air delays. We could have travel delays on the roads. You want to be careful. Take it slow with some wet roadways and the like. Severe weather is certainly a possibility, even up through the Carolinas and Southern Virginia, and rain farther north from there. Middle slice of the country, the middle third, looking pretty good, but that doesn't mean we're going to be delay-free, especially at the airports, because, you know, a delay in one part of the country can impact an airport where the weather's great on the other side of the country. But let's step ahead and go to Monday, right, the day before New Year's Eve. We're going to be watching another storm system track across the U.S. Now, there may be some snow initially Monday evening on the backside of it, but by the time the morning of New Year's Eve rolls around in the Ohio Valley, in Indianapolis, Cleveland, Ohio, Columbus, even Chicago, we're going to deal with rain. This is a rainy system for the most part, even into New Year's Eve. Raining in New York, we think, for your New Year's Eve. Be careful about that. It can be pretty chilly, but still raining. Boston, Buffalo, Cleveland, very likely rain. Cold air does come into the backside of the system, likely by New Year's Day, but not along the I-95 corridor. This is going to be a coastal rain event, interior, some snow. Probably not a lot, but it's a little bit too early to call. But these are some of the estimates in the moderate, potentially shovelable range of snow, especially at the higher elevations, the Adirondacks in New York, Green and White Mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The tornado threat is increasing right now across parts of southeast Texas, and in fact, not that far away from Houston, Texas, just on its northwestern side. There's a small line segment of thunderstorms that apparently has a history of producing tornado. And that tornado warning is for Harris and Waller counties in Texas. That goes until 11 o'clock local time, so about another 10 minutes. That doesn't mean that the storm's threat of a tornado will end in 10 minutes, but in that warning area, that's where the warning goes. That's how far in advance the warning goes until. This is a very, very suspicious line of thunderstorms that you can track it forward in time and show you that it is going to be, let's say, just after the 11 o'clock hour local time near Cypress, Texas. So if you live there, take shelter now. You may not be in the warning in particular. That doesn't mean you're out of danger. If you are in Cypress, take shelter now. Lowest floor, as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and of course away from windows. Protect yourself from flying debris. That is the worst hazard of all, even with a storm like this. So we need to watch, of course, parts of Texas, but many other areas today in the southern part of the U.S. For the severe weather hazard, which is going to be impacting many of us in lots of different ways, including travel on the road and travel on the highway. So be very mindful of that. Even up and down the East Coast, we're going to have airport delays because of what's going on here with the significant severe weather threat, including parts of Louisiana, near as nearby in Mississippi and Alabama. We have a very high tornado threat. This is a TORCON. It's a number between 0 and 10, essentially, and that is based strictly off the SPC, Storm Prediction Center's tornado probabilities. It's not conjured up out of thin air. It's not a guess. This is a very quantifiable diagnostic telling us that the risk is pretty high of a tornado in the region today and tonight. This is not a thing that's going to stop at sunset. It's going to keep going. And while these models are sort of fraught with uncertainty, they're telling us a very compelling story in a consistent way that there will likely be a line of thunderstorms and embedded within that a tornado threat going throughout the evening hours and into the overnight across much of the deep south. Many highly populated areas like Birmingham, Montgomery, Tuscaloosa, all the way down through Mobile in the very early hours tomorrow morning could be dealing with a squall line moving on through with damaging straight line winds, Paul, and a tornado threat.
All right, today perhaps you're trying to fill your day with watching games before this weather comes that way. We got some college bowl games going on with NFL games today and tomorrow, and weather certainly in play here in Yankee Stadium. Rain moving in for the the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium, Nebraska versus Boston College. Meanwhile, in Orlando, we got the Pop-Tarts Bowl. You got Miami taking on Iowa State, and we could see temperatures in the comfortable mid-70s there. Meanwhile, just rain here in Cincinnati as you host the Bengals later on this afternoon. That's not the Bengals, host the Broncos later on this afternoon. And this is an oddity. Not snow, which is quite common this time of the year, but rain, and a warm rain as well. Mid to upper 50s in Orchard Park tomorrow afternoon as the Bills host the Jets here. Definitely impacting play, and scattered showers and thunderstorms could delay play in Jacksonville as the Jaguars host the Titans. And trying to stay in the playoff picture, the Tampa Bay Bucks could be dodging some thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon as you host the NFC South rival Carolina Panthers. And then Philly, improving forecast for you tomorrow. There was rain in here, but now it's just clouds, but mild for December. Temperatures here in the lower 60s. And Tua doesn't do well in any type of weather except sunny and warm. It's not going to be sunny or warm, windy, wet, and kind of cool here in Cleveland as you host the Miami Dolphins. Greg?
Well, we have that tornado threat increasing across parts of southeast Texas here in areas not far from Houston. There's a little tornado warning right here for a short line segment of thunderstorms that's got a very suspicious look to it. You can see a little hook echo. Tornado warning, Harris, Waller County until 11 o'clock local time. This is for now, a radar indicated circulation. Doesn't look like the circulation aloft, according to the Doppler radar, is particularly strong, but it's got a ton of lightning, and I think it does indeed have a history of producing a tornado. So maybe it doesn't have one now, but it's certainly the type of storm that could pop one up without any warning ahead of it. So be careful. This is all closing in now on the Houston, Texas area. So storms are building to your west of Houston, of Conroe. You need to be careful and watch these storms and prepare to act if a warning is issued. Here are the watches out. It's going to be a long day and a long night ahead. I promise you, these are not the last watches that you will see today or tonight.
We are in the middle of a dangerous day here. We can see a tornado outbreak throughout the day. All hazards on the table. Damaging winds, 70, 75 mile per hour winds or stronger. Large hail or reports of baseball hail out there, and possible long tracked and strong tornadoes. We already had multiple tornado warnings, including one in the northwest Houston area here. Now is the time to prepare to be weather aware, especially if you're traveling in areas you're not used to be traveling this time of the year.
Speaking of travel, travel on the southern and eastern quarters of the U.S., not just in exactly that area, but elsewhere, even up and down the seaboard, could be a little bit tricky for us. We're going to have airport delays, lots of places, and as the farther north you go into parts of New England, certainly for the next hour or two in some localized spots, we'll have some freezing rain and some ice build up on the roads. Not a big deal. It's going to warm up this afternoon, even there, but it's going to complicate things, I think.
General Saturday, that would be a big story, but we have bigger stories with severe weather and tornadoes right now. Hey, welcome into this very stormy and active edition of Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodloe alongside our storm expert, Dr. Postel, and America's weekend depends on the weather.
Yep, a dangerous threat of storms, as Paul was mentioning, that goes today, actually even into tonight, and also into tomorrow. So it's going to be kind of a long duration event. So be careful if you're traveling and have plans to be delayed, I just think, at the airports especially.
Yeah, we had big time delays yesterday in Dallas. We're seeing more already, and that will continue as we head throughout today. We have watches out there, even new watches being issued. And the one thing you just notice here, not heavy rain here in Texarkana or Shreveport, but the temperatures in the 60s, that's just more fuel for these storms, which are already rolling across that region.
You are right about that, Paul. And we are going to see that warmth continue to move northward from the Gulf of Mexico into the region, sort of setting us up for a very busy day. This is sort of essentially providing us the fuel for the thunderstorms that develop in these areas later on this afternoon.
All right, let's talk about this because we have about 24 million people at risk for severe weather. We're talking about the hill country of Texas through Houston and Dallas eastward into Huntsville, even Atlanta. You're in this. That's for today. And then we had a few more. We got 28 million for tomorrow. But let's talk about right now. We got Torcons up to a 7. That's Torcon number goes up to a 10. We're at a 7. This is a pretty extreme number, and it could go even higher as we head on through today. So cities in the 7. You have Jackson, Mississippi. Alexandria, Louisiana. We already had a tornado warning earlier this morning, but even Tuscaloosa, we're at a 5, and nearby Birmingham, roughly at a 4 and 3 in the Torcon. That's for later tonight as the storms weaken just a little bit as they move that way. But with the Torcon as high as that, we expect severe weather. We expect numerous tornadoes, more watches and warnings being issued, and we could see the tornadoes that do form to be on the strong side, EF2 or stronger, and they could last a long time. So you want to be weather aware and be ready to change your activity if the weather starts to change along the area as well. And you can see, while tornadoes will be isolated, maybe even lines of it, though, everyone dealing with, if you're dealing with a storm, you're dealing with that risk of thunderstorm winds being 70, 80 mile per hour. So widespread wind damage will be the big calling card of this. Look at the heavy rain, all the lightning rolling across much of central Texas from Fort Worth and Dallas on towards Houston, Austin, seeing some of the storms here. Lots of lightning with these storms now going severe into the Arklatex, and even more storms crossing the Mississippi into parts of the state of Mississippi, and scattered showers here in southeastern Louisiana. So a lot to talk about here in terms of the warnings and watches, including one of our latest severe thunderstorm warnings here. Arkansas City as well as Haley, all under this warning, not to mention hail. Baseball-sized hail reported with this storm. Is moving now currently into Mississippi, so that's definitely going to do some damage to vehicles, rooftops, and maybe even some crops and livestock as well. You can see we have plenty of heavy rain in North Texas, but we zoom in towards the Houston area. This cell wholly in Harris County right now. This warning goes to another almost 30 minutes, and it's moving Now, the rotating part is moving right towards the Highway 290 area. We're talking about Cypress, Side Creek, Fairbanks, Willowbrook Mall, that area northwest of town, definitely being impacted. So will the Highway 290. We have the velocity on this. Jillian, we can kind of see where that possible rotation, where that possible tornado is. And we're still seeing it here, right there. So that's where it was the last scan. But so again, this is what has happened at that point. Now it's probably moving right over Cypress Creek. You see the latest scan has moved a little farther north and west, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour here. But basically, it's upon you currently in Cypress, Corville coming your way, Tomball. Again, all these times, you want to be in your safe space long before that time because, again, this thing is moving quickly and perhaps could reform even farther ahead of where it is right now. So it's still a tornado warning for you. This is the Houston metro area, so this isn't too far out. This is still considered the suburbs of Houston with that possible tornado across that area. And we already had one report of tornado here in Louisiana earlier this morning, and some people actually have it on tape. So we'll get that tape for you as well. And already a report of a funnel cloud. No confirmation of touching down, but sometimes you'll see a funnel in the air. You might not see that funnel touch the ground, but the tornadic winds could be on the ground as well. So a couple things to remember: treat funnel clouds as likely possible tornadoes, and also treat severe thunderstorm warnings as possible tornado warnings, because we often see these severe thunderstorm warnings then change and get upgraded to actual tornado warnings. And speaking of tornadoes, our watch, this one goes to 3 o'clock. We had a new edition of it last hour, which now includes parts of the Hill Country, Texas, and it doesn't include Houston. But guess what, Houston? We still have a tornado warning. You can be close enough to these areas and have the same atmospheric conditions to give you that severe weather. Greg?
That's such a good point, Paul, because the watches mean conditions are favorable in and close to the watch area. So you do not have to be strictly in a watch. But if you're close to it, maybe a county, maybe a couple of counties away, you still have some kind of risk there. Here's the overall outlook for severe weather today. Very likely this is again issued by the Storm Prediction Center. All of the variables that you think of, the properties of the atmosphere that support tornadic thunderstorms and severe weather in general, all the way here, even extending into northern parts of Alabama, and that would be later on this afternoon and evening. We have the usual suspects in front of us right now, and I could probably reposition these fronts a little bit because they keep getting reset. The rain and showers is a feedback on the lower atmospheric thermal property. So yeah, they move around a little bit and they wiggle from hour to hour. But this is basically where the fronts are. And note where they are because they're very good at collecting showers and thunderstorms across the region. There is a whole lot of very heavy rain. Embedded within that, a lot of cloud ground lightning and some severe thunderstorm activity there along that stationary boundary, which is now beginning to move a bit farther to the north and will become, we'll call it a warm front because it'll be on the move as that area of low pressure begins to track up along a place like that and strengthen as it does. And as it gets stronger and stronger, it's going to organize those ingredients for severe weather even more. So we have to watch out for that. But there's a whole lot going on here in front of you. And along that boundary for now, this is a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until, well, noon, another hour or so, but there might be more of those severe thunderstorm and or tornado watches out issued along that boundary because remember, those are good places to look for the collection of thunderstorms and, in some cases, the collection of the ingredients for tornadic thunderstorms. Be careful of that. But in that warm sector, right, we have a much more favorable environment for tornadoes based on lots of data. And going until 3 o'clock, we have the bulk of it. But then there's this part, as Paul was mentioning, in the western edge of that area in red. Well, that goes until 5. And that does not technically include Houston. But Houston, you are at risk for seeing severe weather. And a collection of supercell thunderstorms is growing in intensity just to your west. That doesn't mean you're out of the woods. Clearly, you can see in front of you. Paul talked about this particular thunderstorm. It has exhibited properties all along the way, a very strong mesocyclone structure to it, rotating aloft. But it is also, we think, earlier produced a tornado west of Houston. So be very careful of that. And that line segment, the short line segment, is moving eastbound. And we will likely get some version of severe weather in and close to Houston in the coming hour or two. Now, the whole reason why we've got all of it, we need to monitor this. This is not just for academic sake. This powerful cold air loft, the dip in the jet stream that is shaped like that, is moving over the region and drawing up the moisture from the Gulf of Mexico like a vacuum cleaner, pulling up the rug right out in front of you. That's how it works. I'm not going to get into why, but we're seeing the transport, the flux of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, and that is humidifying and destabilizing the atmosphere, in addition to that cold pocket aloft moving in from the west. Now, of course, with all of that, with those very strong gradients in atmospheric, we'll call it temperature, strong wind aloft is now circulating around the region. You can see the clouds flying by from southwest to northeast. That's a sign that the winds aloft are real strong and getting stronger. It looks like there's a jet max coming in around the base of that trough. And that, imagine that, right? Very strong winds aloft like that. This is a complicated graphic, but the strong winds aloft are like that. The winds at the surface are out of the south or south-southeast like that. So you could draw, right, the variation in wind with height on a map called a hodograph. We use those all the time. They're so very good at helping us determine the basically the storm structure that is likely to evolve over the region. And I'll tell you, without getting into the details, that the kind of wind variation that we see with altitude is the kind that supports severe weather with a tornado threat, which is why torcons are 7. So then a scale from 0 to 10, that's a significant number, right? Based strictly off the SPC's tornado probabilities. So here's a rough estimate of where the storms are going to be today. And do keep in mind, these models are very, very difficult to track explicitly. Thunderstorms, it's very uncertain here, but the probability of a line of thunderstorms becoming a dominant mode this evening, tonight, and on in tomorrow is high. And embedded within that line, because of the very strong dynamic structure here, do expect the possibility of tornadoes embedded within it. And that's not all. There may be storms that develop ahead of that line that also have a tornado threat significantly into the nighttime, into tomorrow morning. Paul, this is going to last through tomorrow. This is a long duration, 36-hour plus deal here with, look, even tomorrow morning, we may be covering some big weather coming into the Atlanta area during our show.
Yeah, as you sleep tomorrow, rolling through Alabama. So you might want to make a plan today and tonight to say, hey, kids, let's have fun. Let's sleep downstairs in the basement if you have one, or let's sleep in the east side of the house versus the west side, because, again, storms coming in from the west. So if you're farther east, you'll have more protection between you and those walls that could come in or other things that could come down. And plus, you got trees that might be blown down by the winds as well. You want to avoid that kind of a falling path. And generally, okay, wherever the sun is coming up, that's the east side of your house. Where it sets, that's the west side of your house, as a rule of thumb here in the U.S. But here in Louisiana, into parts of East Texas, we have 7 here on the Torcon. That's significant. We already had a tornado warning earlier in Louisiana and Alexandria area, possible tornado as well. But right now, we have a severe thunderstorm warning here. And the tag here is tornado possible. What does that mean? Well, Doppler radar already indicating there's some rotation going on aloft. That's the first sign or signature. We could have something tornadic on the ground as well. That's what I'm saying. Treat these severe thunderstorm warnings like you should treat tornado warnings, because these are the storms that can quickly produce tornadoes. And that is like, you know, it's like getting the answer sheet, open book test. You've got the answers here, possible tornadoes. So you want to take shelter immediately in Bossier and Caddo and DeSoto parishes here. And that's in Louisiana side. Right now on the Texas side, Harrison and Panola counties under that severe thunderstorm warning. We put this in motion. We'll see a lot more showers and thunderstorms erupt as we have throughout the day, and any one of them can have damaging wind, hail, and even tornadoes. Here it is 4 in the afternoon, and the radar is still working overtime here. Hail, also a big concern, damaging winds. They blast on through here. Tonight, we start seeing the beginning of the end of this. So Sunday looks far quieter than it will tonight. A little farther east, same conditions, although just fast forward about an hour on the timeline. So instead of being at 4 o'clock across, say, Alexandria, this could be perhaps 5 or 6 o'clock. So the later we go in the afternoon, the higher likelihood of seeing storms barrel across parts of central Mississippi with the risk of hail, damaging wind, and even tornadoes. Again, you're in that tornado watch area until 3 this afternoon. Expect more watches to be issued, and you certainly do quiet down as we head on towards Sunday. Now, whether you're at home today or out traveling, having your cell phone handy could actually help save your life. Here's how you can turn on your emergency alerts on your phone before severe weather hits. We're not always by our TVs and radios when severe weather strikes, but chances are we do have our mobile phones with us. The emergency alert features found on most smartphones can be a lifesaver during severe weather. Here's how to make sure yours are enabled. On the iPhone, simply go to Settings, click Notifications, and scroll down to the bottom. Make sure the emergency alerts and public safety alerts are toggled to the green on position. For many Android phones, look in your message settings for the word Alerts, and you can choose which ones you want to enable from there. Some alerts can be in other locations on Android phones, so just search for the words Emergency Alerts. Fortunately, these smartphone alerts will work in any town you are in and will warn you of any possible dangerous weather heading your way.
Well, we've got some travel issues already across parts of the Northeast. There is a delay. Hey, Jillian, what airport was that in New York? JFK, 2-hour delay for low ceilings. So even though the weather right now may not be terrible across parts of the country in the Northeast and or the Midwest, do be prepared for delays. The weather's not perfect. And where the weather is bad in one part of the country, that can affect another part of the country a long distance away. So be mindful of that. Check your airports. Be safe traveling on the roads. Unsettled weather is moving in. Here's a look at some of the delays right now in the Northeast.
We are tracking severe weather, including tornadoes across the area. We have a tornado watch across parts of Texas till 5 o'clock this afternoon, but not in the watch area is where we have our lone tornado warning right now, and that's in the Houston area. We're talking about parts of Harris County under a tornado warning. That goes until 11:30 local time. So another 11 minutes, now 10 minutes on that warning, but it continues to show rotation and closing in on the Cypress area. So if you're in Cypress, the Willowbrook Mall area across Highway 290 here, closing in on Tomball, again, this is where the rotation was earlier. Now it's probably about right here, encroaching and crossing over Highway 249 here on Tomball Highway. Again, it's already past 290. That's some good news. So traffic can resume from PV up to down to the northwest corner there. But we're talking moving through Cypress, Cypress Creek, Cypress Fairbanks, heading eventually on towards the Woodlands if this circulation holds together. And it's been holding together quite some time. And you also see there's a lot of rain there. So if you're in the area, wonder if you're safe. If you got raindrops falling, you're not safe. Once the rain ends, you'll be in the more quieter or temporarily quieter atmosphere here, a little safer to venture out. I know a lot of folks are out and about traveling, perhaps still seeing family, going to the malls, and already a sighting near the intersection of Highway 290 and Spring Cypress Road. So this is blasting across the northwest suburbs there. So you still want to stay in your safe place. Not a whole lot of basements at all in this area, but you have interior rooms. Again, the storm is moving from the southwest to the northeast at 30 miles per hour. So if you can, move to the northeast corner of your house. It'll be a little safer to put more walls between you and those strong winds or potential tornadic winds. Again, this is the northwest suburbs of the Houston area, and we're seeing scattered showers and thunderstorms. And by the way, we do have a tornado watch out. It ends about here. It doesn't include the Houston area, but guess what? We have, here's Houston. We have a tornado warning outside the watch area. That happens all the time. That watch goes to 5. This watch goes until 3. Expect new watches to be issued and expanded. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch. Great news here for travelers. We've now pared away Fort Worth, and Dallas out of that severe thunderstorm watch. So your weather is slowly improving across the area. And we do expect to hopefully catch up on some of the delays, although right now, Houston, that's Bush Intercontinental north side of town. We got a 45-minute departure delay because of these storms, which are rolling on through where the planes typically take off and land. Dr. Postel?
Well, as the severe weather threat ramps up today, a tornado can strike really anytime, anywhere, and even while you're out on the road. Meteorologist Alex Wilson helps give you some tips to keep you safe.
You're out on the highway on a collision course with a massive tornado. This is scary. It's bearing down on you. What should you do? This is not a good position to be in, and every situation will be different. But there are a few options that can help save your life. If you know you can safely drive away from the tornado or get to a nearby underground shelter or sturdy building, do that. Do not try and outrun a tornado. Tornadoes can move at over 60 miles an hour, and their path can be unpredictable with strong winds far from the funnel. This is especially true for semi-trucks. The large surface area of the trailer makes it easier for strong winds to loft the vehicle into the air. If the tornado is about to hit and there's a ditch on the side of the road and deep enough to protect you from flying debris, pull completely off the road, move away from your vehicle, lie down flat on the ground, and cover your head. If you decide to stay in your car, keep your seatbelt on, keep the engine running so airbags can deploy, and cover your head. Duck below the windows to protect yourself from glass. Now, admittedly, both of those options are scary, so you might be tempted to park underneath an overpass, but this is not a good idea. Winds accelerate under the overpass, bringing dangerous flying debris. And if you climb higher up the sides of the overpass, you will be exposed to higher winds and more flying debris. They act like missiles. This is what injures and kills people the most in tornadoes. A single piece of wood flying around in a tornado can have the same energy as detonating a gram of TNT. And there are thousands of pieces of debris whirling around. So before you hit the road, plan your day around the timing of the storms. Give yourself a buffer to be in or nearby safe shelter because you want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
Well, Alex, thank you very much. We have some new video now. Katy, Texas. This is just west of Houston. That we don't know. It looks like a funnel cloud, but may have a circulation on the ground. This was a tornado warned storm and was about 45 minutes ago. So roughly 11:45 local time. Something to watch very carefully. This is a dangerous part of the day in eastern Texas.
We are dealing with more severe weather, including the risk for tornadoes today across all of the south here. You got a live look at Jackson, Mississippi, close to 70 degrees. You see some of the streets have some puddles there from the rain earlier. We have more to come, even some blue sky overhead. We got Montgomery, Alabama. We too are in the upper 60s here, and you can feel that energy in the air. We could be dealing with a possible tornado outbreak as we head throughout this Sunday. And Dr. Postel, a lot of people are perhaps surprised at the risk for severe weather, but you know, December, wintertime, it's kind of the secondary severe weather season across the South, and tornadoes are definitely on the docket.
Yep, not all that unusual to see severe weather chances in this part of the country this time of year. But today is a higher end kind of version of what you might often think this time of year, with a pretty good chance of tornadoes. And there is wording in the Storm Prediction Center using the words like tornado outbreak expected. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. We've already had a couple of tornado warnings, one confirmed tornado just west of Houston. And overall, this is, again, an area of the country that needs to be on alert all the way from Texas through Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, of course, and even nearby areas in Georgia. Here's what we've got with the surface features here, which are kind of generally good indicators of where perhaps some of the most vigorous thunderstorm activity will occur, because fronts are usually pretty good at collecting that kind of activity. And we're seeing that a lot of it here in Arkansas. A lot of heavy rain, cloud ground lightning, some chance of severe weather, primarily of the variety with damaging straight line winds and hail, big hail. We've seen that, and we'll be watching that. But there's a whole nother part of this atmosphere that is very unstable and highly sheared, meaning it's got a lot there to support severe weather, including tornadoes. So one by one, there's the stuff along that stationary boundary, which is eventually going to be moving northward as a warm front, as that surface area of low pressure begins to move along a path about like that and strengthen along the way. So do expect more thunderstorms to develop along it, more thunderstorm watches as well. And then along and near that front and to the south, that's where the most significant tornado threat is. We have a tornado watch until 3 o'clock here, and then the western edge of it goes until 5 local time, which goes not that far from Houston, Texas, where right now we got a short little line segment of severe weather, including the possibility of tornadoes. We already had one near Cypress, Texas, and now this we have another warning here for Harris and Montgomery counties in Texas going until 12:15 local time, so about another 45 minutes or so. This is, again, northwest of Houston. There's a line developing here, but in that line, there's very obvious rotation. Now, not all of these rotating signatures in the Doppler radar are indicative of a tornado in progress. Some of them are. This one, it's hard to tell. It's kind of ambiguous, but there is very clearly an area of rotation in the radar just to the southeast of Tomball, and that is moving northeast. So we have to be very mindful. If you live, for example, in the Woodlands, eventually this storm is going to be moving very close by. So please take shelter now. Prepare for the possibility of a tornado moving through. Lowest floor, as many walls between you and the outside, and of course away from windows. The rest of the day is going to be volatile, and it's going to be in lots of different places. There will likely be a threat of severe weather, including tornadoes, out ahead of what we think will be a developing squall line, which will have embedded within it the chance for tornadoes, not just today, but into the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning as well. So this is going to be a very, very busy day, and overnight tonight, tomorrow, it is going to be fraught with the threat of tornadoes. Paul.
Yeah, even after the sun goes down, middle of the night as well. Live look at Alexandria, Louisiana, where, we don't have the rain falling now, but we had storms blow through here earlier, and one even tornado warning we had about 3 hours ago. So all is quiet now, but it's not going to last because we do have a risk of tornadoes. Our Torcon is a lot higher in the area. Right now, Shreveport, that camera's rocking with thunderstorms blowing through this northwest corner of Louisiana here. And we also have a Torcon of 5. Let's talk about this forecast. Again, Shreveport, 5 in the Torcon. Alexandria, that's a 7 on the Torcon here. So that's a high likelihood of seeing damaging wind and thunderstorms blow through here, severe storms, even more tornadoes. Something we're watching closely. In fact, right now, Shreveport, we're in that warning here. We've got Bossier, Caddo, and DeSoto parishes under severe thunderstorm warnings. Harrison, Panola counties out of Texas under severe thunderstorm warnings. Possible tornado, meaning we got some rotation in this severe thunderstorm. So this could quickly change to a tornado warning. Got to treat that with concern because this will continue as we head over the next half hour. New video in from the Weather Channel of possible tornadoes in the Houston area. This video shot around Katy, Texas. This is just west of Houston, and we had a tornado warning storm for this storm that moved out of Waller County and rolled through northwestern Harris County, still rolling as we speak here. But clearly, that's a funnel cloud. Looks like it's extending pretty far low. Here's another aspect of that. Looks like it could be another funnel cloud trying to develop past it. So definitely, that was duly noted. That's why Doppler radar is so fantastic. It's great that someone can shoot video of this, but what about a radar, a piece of equipment that can detect this long before you actually see that with your eyes? And that's the beauty of Doppler radar. The men and women at the local Weather Service office doing a lot of work, hard work today and throughout today and tonight, tracking severe weather. There it is, Cypress, that same cell, again, moved past Katy and through into Harris County. And here in Cypress, northwest suburbs of Houston, a tornado sighted near the intersection of Highway 290 and Spring Cypress Road. So now we're talking north of 290, closing in on, say, Willowbrook Mall, Jones Road, FM 1960. So, a lot of people live in that area, so a lot of eyeballs on it. Hopefully, it was spotted and not doing any damage, but that's a concern. And that's in an area that's not in our watch area. You're close enough to it. So we have just a very ripe atmosphere for strong and severe thunderstorms and tornadoes and damaging wind and hail. This warning is still going on here, should be expiring. Wow, they extended it. So it was at 11:30, now it's 12:15. So another, do the math here, 35 minutes, 35 minutes in the storm. Harris County, and also it's going to move into Montgomery County. So this continues to be, still strong rotation with this cell here. Again, this is where the radar last scanned it. It's probably moving just due south of the Woodlands. And by the way, in this area is nothing but this huge area called Bush Intercontinental Airport. So expect a ground stop going on here, big time delays. It'll take a while before it's cleared because we've got to make sure there's no damage being done by that. At the very least, we have some damaging winds here. And just looking at the DBZs or the level of intensity of the radar, most likely there's some hail falling here as well. Hail and aircraft, they don't go together very well at all. We kind of time this out here. It continues to move on towards Oak Ridge North over the next, say, 15 minutes or so. Porter Heights, Grangerland as well. So a big concern. This goes until 12:15 local time. This is north of Houston, right up and down that Interstate 45 corridor here. So if you can delay your travel, perhaps you're trying to drive out north out of Houston to the Dallas area, just give it another hour or so before that line hopefully clears on out. And again, ground delay for sure, at the very least an hour, if not longer. Hopefully there is not an actual tornado, but you can already see the winds gusting 25, 30 miles per hour. Houston, you're not in the tornado watch, but you have a tornado warning and a cited possible tornado there as well. So it's not just in that area, around that area. This other watch goes until 3. This time could be updated. New watches could be implemented. Fort Worth, Dallas, the airports here. Improving weather for you. Good news for your afternoon and evening flights. It should be a little more weather cooperating. But then we head on towards tomorrow. This stuff doesn't poof, disappear. It keeps rolling overnight into the early morning hours. And then the world's, not just the nation's, the world's busiest airport, Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. We could see some severe weather as early as overnight tonight into the dawn hour, and then for the first half of the day. And then the storms also keep pushing eastward. Charlotte, another hub city in airlines, could be dealing with some issues. We have 3 here in Otorcon. Does include you in the Charlotte area. We pick up the radar 6 o'clock in the morning. Storms are in or barreling through Atlanta at that hour and then continue pushing eastward. Atlanta, you should start quieting down before lunchtime. Good news for your outdoor plans or afternoon flights, but if you're flying across this, expect delays, expect a bumpy ride, and Charlotte midday flights. Pack your patience, check with your airlines. Eventually, that kind of pushes on towards the mid-Atlantic as we head on towards later on this evening, and look for quieter weather for you as we head on towards Monday. Greg?
Patience is going to be key. You're right about that, Paul. You know what? The travel tomorrow nationwide, Paul was talking about the East Coast being interrupted by severe weather. No doubt about that. We'll have that tomorrow. But the rest of the country, like from Chicago, Dallas on westbound, not too bad. But we're going to suffer delays, I think, here too, because of what's happening on the East Coast. Remember, the weather doesn't have to be local to really cause a lot of problems. It could be happening somewhere else, and then the delays pile up as they filter on away. Now, let's have a look at Monday. We're going to step our way to Monday. There's a new storm system that's going to be moving in to the Northeast for New Year's Eve. And there it will be like on New Year's Eve morning, mostly a rainmaker. You might think that's kind of unusual, right, for the very last day of December. No, well, it's warm enough, certainly to report snow. I wouldn't say it's exactly warm, but look, in New York City on New Year's Eve, be prepared for rain. D.C., Baltimore, also as far west as Pittsburgh. And then this thing gets a little bit of cold air on its back edge and could indeed bring some accumulating snow to northern New England and northern New York State as it moves away later on Wednesday, New Year's Day, and on into Thursday morning. How much snow? It's way too early to know for sure. A lot of uncertainty in it, but let's call it moderate amounts here in the Adirondacks and the Green and White Mountains, the mountains of western Maine. We could see shovelable accumulating snow in the region as the system departs. Welcome back. Let's have a live look at Shreveport, Louisiana. Looks like the rain's coming down pretty hard. Temperature 70 degrees, though. So warm and humid air has now infiltrated to parts of Louisiana, Shreveport. In the northwestern part of the state, there's a bunch of showers and thunderstorms moving on by. And in fact, for Shreveport, we have a severe thunderstorm warning, which goes until, well, noon local time, so about another 10 minutes or so. So overall, there you are. There's the rain and thunderstorm activity moving through. Again, goes until noon local time. It's about another 10 minutes or so. And this is not the only severe weather I don't think we're going to see today. We'll have more. Another warning just popped up, but there's a lot more headed out to the west. Now, just west of Houston, where earlier today we saw a tornado-warned storm actually produce a tornado. I saw the video. It was a circulation on the ground a while back, not far from Cypress, Texas, just west of Houston. And now there's, for that same storm, or the same cluster of storms, another tornado warning out for Harris and Montgomery counties. That goes until 12:15 local times, about another 25 minutes or so. This storm is very likely rain-wrapped. So it's looking like there is a tornado in progress with it. This is a tight enough couplet for me to look at it and say likely a tornado, even though it says radar indicated. If you live in that warning, Oak Ridge North, Spring, or the Woodlands, take shelter now. Looks like the actual circulation is now just southeast of the Woodlands, so headed off in that direction. So if you live in the Woodlands, I think at least certainly on the northwest side of town, you are in good shape. That storm is moving away from you. But here's a couple of locations that might be impacted, including Grangerland at 12:07, so about 15 minutes. If you live in those locations, take shelter now. Lowest floor, as many walls between you and the outside as possible. Overall, there's a very dynamic system, a little short line segment of supercell thunderstorms. That one, I think, has a tornado with it as we speak. Travel-wise across the south, well, today, you know what, it's going to be kind of problematic in lots of places, not just in the deep south, but by extension, you're going to see some travel issues nationwide because of this weather system, this potential tornado outbreak that is staring us in the face, that may indeed produce tornadoes into the nighttime and overnight hours and tomorrow morning. So we're going to be tracking it very carefully as we move along. This is a future radar. There will be a couple of components here to watch carefully. Some of the renegade storms out ahead of the line could produce tornadoes. Some of the storms embedded within this developing squall line will also be potentially producing tornadoes as it moves across Mississippi, Alabama, and other areas of the deep south during the nighttime hours tonight and into tomorrow morning, maybe closing in on the Atlanta suburbs. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be tracking this. Paul and I will be here tomorrow for sure, tracking all these storms, because tomorrow morning they will be in progress, and that severe weather threat continues into the afternoon, even tomorrow. Paul.
All right, time now, a little weather and sports together. And if you're playing fantasy football, this is probably your championship weekend. So we're going to put our little spin on weather and sports. And this is unusual this time of the year. It should be snow in Buffalo, but it's rain because temperatures are in the upper 50s as you host the Jets. Bills are definitely in the playoffs for sure. Jaguars in Jacksonville, here in Jacksonville, Florida. Scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow as you host the Titans. Neither team making the playoffs. Bucs trying to get there. Maybe some showers, maybe some thunderstorms could delay that NFC South matchup against the Panthers in Tampa tomorrow afternoon. And also in Philly, 60s in December. Last Sunday of December, lower 60s as you host the Cowboys. Eagles trying to make sure they stay in the playoffs. The Browns, rain showers here in Cleveland as the Dolphins, they got a chance, but Tua doesn't do well in any type of active weather except 70 or warmer and dry weather. That's just the stats here. Meanwhile, rain coming into our nation's capital area, including Landover, Maryland, as the Commanders trying to stay in the playoffs. So are the Falcons, actually leading the NFC South. Keep an eye on that. So a lot of weather impacting games. This is tomorrow evening's game. We're going to have much more weekend recharge on the way, and the countdown on the Weather Channel for more severe weather. We have wall-to-wall coverage throughout today to make sure that you are safe if you're traveling this holiday weekend into next week. And we're still tracking severe weather. We have a tornado warning right now in the Houston area. We still have Harris County under a severe thunderstorm warning. This camera, where's this camera? It's somewhere in the Houston metro area. Actually, Shreveport, Louisiana, where you have a severe thunderstorm warning, but there's some possible rotation going on there. All right, we zoom in towards the Houston area. If you're trying to fly out of Intercontinental Airport, This is just south of this airport, south of this warned area, but we've had reports of a sighted tornado. Strong rotation continues to move out of Harris County into Montgomery County. This warning for at least another 20 more minutes.
Welcome back for some continuing coverage of the ongoing severe weather across parts of the Deep South. There's a whole lot of rain. We got a low pressure system and a bunch of thunderstorms, some of them severe and some of them not far, for example, from Houston. Recently showing tornadic behavior and even producing a confirmed tornado near Cypress, Texas. So we've got a severe thunderstorm watch out for parts of Texas and nearby areas of Arkansas. That goes until 2 o'clock local time. It looks kind of funny. That's because parts of it have been shaved away with the threat reducing on its edges. But it's kind of makes sense. It's right along this stationary boundary that is now starting to move and becoming a warm front. But either way, a frontal zone, remember, is a great place to collect severe weather and thunderstorms in an environment like this. And that's why we have the watch shaped the way it is. And that is not just the only watch out there. We've got a more volatile atmosphere, one that can support tornadoes just a bit farther to the south in the warm sector. And that includes Mississippi, Louisiana, and parts of Texas. For most of it goes to 3 o'clock, but then there's part of that tornado watch that in East Texas goes until 5 local time. So this is a long day, and this is not the last set of watches we're going to see. I promise you, we're going to have more tornado watches and probably more severe thunderstorm watches as this whole dynamic system continues to evolve, mature, and get more intense. Let's look at that storm right there, just north of Houston. This is the one or part of the group of storms that has recently produced a tornado west of Houston. It is a well-defined supercell. You can see clearly the hook echo, and that tornado warning does include Oak Ridge North and Porter Heights. If you live in those locations, take shelter now. This storm is moving on your way toward Roman Forest. And let's have a look at what's inside of that storm, as the Doppler radar can so effectively do. There is a well-defined circulation here. Whether or not it's got a tornado, it's not entirely clear right now. The circulation has broadened a bit in the last few minutes, in the last few scans, but it is a very, very intense thunderstorm that certainly is capable of producing a tornado. So if you live really anywhere in Harris and Montgomery counties, take shelter now. That storm is moving on by. This is, again, the beginning of a long day, long night, and long day tomorrow, where the tornado threat, this goes only for today, but it's very significant, and it's going to likely continue into the overnight hours. So just because the daylight is over and the nighttime is commenced, we are going to be dealing with a squall line with damaging winds and potential tornadoes moving across the Deep South into tomorrow morning and into tomorrow afternoon as well.
Coming up today on Pattern, scientists didn't know about this huge